Alright, what is going on, everybody? Layloy versus John the Fearless. This is game number or series number 7 of 8 in Hidden Cup for round of 16s. We're going to have Layloy selecting Mudflow and Islands as his home maps. Mudflow seems to be super popular over here among the players. Cup and Bay, the more traditional Hidden Cup maps for John the Fearless. Quarry is banned from him. That's a little bit unconventional. We haven't even seen Quarry being played a single time so far. High Tides by Layloy, so they blend 2 of the new maps. I'm very surprised that Mudflow is this popular among the players. I thought it's going to be the most hated map, but it seems like Quarry takes the role of the most hated map here. Vikings, Chinese global bans, Khmer, Lithuanian snipes. John the Fearless will be left with Italians, Portuguese, Britons, Mayans, Japanese, Bulgarians. Interestingly, I wonder what that Bulgarians is for. Other side, Mongols, Indians, Aztecs, Celts, and Byzantines, accompanied by Franks. And the first thing I'm noticing, Layloy has an islands home map with no realistic island civ. Like, the best one that you can get is Byzantines, but is Byzantines a great island civ? Not really. It works out well, and I mean, he banned Vikings, but then he lost Italians, Portuguese. I want to take a look at this. I feel like you could say Layloy is a player that doesn't want to play water fights on islands, but that might not be true. Because look at the order of the draft. Layloy picks Lithuanians first, and then John the Fearless picks 2 civilizations, Italians and Portuguese. So whoever John the Fearless is wants to be sure that he has a good civ for islands, and since Vikings are banned, Italians, Portuguese gone, Japanese could have been an option for Layloy for islands, Saracens could have been a thing, but he decides that his only civilization for islands is Byzantines, or the alternative is that he doesn't even want to play standard water, and we might see a Celts selection over here. I don't think that we have seen Vivi in the tournament so far, so we will see if this actually is a bit of a clue towards either of the players. With that, I believe that the time is up. Robo said that we are starting at 18:30 GMT, which is like right in this very moment. So we'll probably get the first recorded game in a couple of moments. Layloy versus John the Fearless. Once again, the casual warning that I might have some mild spoilers compared to previous series, which means that I'm not going to spoil the results, but I'm going to say, hey, there was other players that already picked a certain civilization for a certain map. That's just inevitable for Hidden Cup. So yeah, indeed, islands are very, very popular in this tournament. I'm surprised how popular it is. Basically, we almost have islands in every series, and that also applies for qualifiers. There was a crazy amount of islands picks. I am definitely shocked by that, because I thought players are hating islands. Like, that's the funny thing. I thought players are like, okay, I don't want to play islands, but it seems like everybody is playing islands this time. It is time for Master of Islands 2, maybe. Okay, so Robo still hasn't given us a rec, but I assume that's going to occur in a moment. I'm just going to keep an eye out on the caster's Discord right now, just to make sure that I am not going to miss a recorded game. So technically we are starting in a minute or so. Let's hope that indeed that is the case. So indeed, here comes the first recorded game, and with that we will be able to jump inside. Once again, Capture Age is going to be our tool for this one, which works a lot more stable than it used to be. So really, Capture Age guys did a beautiful work patching up Capture Age. So I think everything is set, and we can jump into the first game over here. Welcome to Arabia. This is Layloy versus John the Fearless. I just want to show the original colors of the players. John the Fearless picked blue, and he's playing Bulgarians, interestingly, on the left side. That's an interesting opening. Other side is Layloy in gray. That's the original color he picked, but I will be switching him to red because for easier visibility, basically. Gray, you see it over here still that this was his original color that was picked. Not something that we can attribute to any player, but I just wanted to show that off here. I don't think that any player would try to reveal his identity with his color. I am fairly certain that everybody's picking a different color than what they used to. So Leader usually plays green, we haven't seen a single green player. Viper usually plays yellow, we haven't really seen yellows. Winchester plays purple most of the time, we haven't seen really purples either. Most of the people are picking blue and green, or blue and red, but we also have gray as a very, very popular option. I don't really know why. Doesn't really matter, because as I said, now we can actually set it in capture age to be red. With that, John the Fearless actually has a Bulgarian play over here. I really wonder what this is going to be up for, because this is going to be super unconventional. It was his last civilization selection in the draft, as Laylo is coming forward aggressively for what could be a laming attempt, sees the TC, and backs off for now. Looking at the base of John the Fearless, this is actually a very nice base. It takes some effort to wall this one all the way around, but there is multiple walling options, and you can secure a lot of ground at the back of your base if you're willing to wall here, here, here. It takes quite a lot of time, but we've seen some pros already walling that big, so it's not impossible. Free on wood only. With Bulgarians, there is no guarantees about anything with free on wood. This could be a fast man-at-arms play. We could see something like man-at-arms into scouts. Against Aztecs, that is an interesting opening, but it could work out nicely, especially if you anticipate your opponent going for man-at-arms as well. First board coming in right now for Leloy. No surprise about the fact that he's actually 4 on wood. And let's see if he's actually weakening the board with the TC. Not something that he's doing right now. So that's always a little clue to look out for. Other side, we weren't able to check that out for now, but we'll be taking a look at the second board very soon. It looks like Leloy has actually missed 2 of his sheep arenas. In fact, Leloy actually went for some very aggressive scouting on the opponent. He didn't try to lame this board, even though he technically could have tried it. So I think that he just wanted to steal some sheep. As with trade line with the resub, continuing the gifted sub. I appreciate that a lot. So we're gonna have Leloy squeezing in a Voyager in between the berries and the mill. I like that decision over there. And we got a player that is weakening boards with the TC. The majority of the players do that, but we can already limit our search to a couple of players from the players that do not weaken the board with TC consistently. And you see that now it's actually a weaken. So it is one of the players that does this on certain occasions, but not all the time. With that, as I said, free on wood can still be a 20 pop man-at-arms build from Bulgarians. That's a very, very aggressive opening. It's one of those openings that can surprise unexperienced players in, for example, Discord tournaments. I remember I once played a T90 Discord tournament in 1v1 and I got caught off guard so badly by a 20 pop man-at-arms build. It's a tight one, but it's definitely doable with Bulgarians, and it's definitely one of those build orders which can catch an opponent off guard. Not an expert player like Leloy, for example, but on lower levels, 20 pop Bulgarian man-at-arms, potentially into scouts, is something that works really, really well. We got some deer push coming in here as well from Leloy. I think he ended up securing his sheep. Yes, it is very possible. He still has 2 sheep back at home. His opponent has 4 though, without any deer push, so it might have been John the Fearless stealing those 2 sheep arenas. Oh boy. Tatito, is that you? That's an upside down question mark. And the only language I know that actually uses such a thing is Spanish. Right? LAN confirmed. I don't think it's LAN, considering that LAN didn't qualify the event. So, LAN is not an option. But Taro definitely is. It's a small clue, and there is absolutely a chance that someone actually wants to mess around with that. The thing is that it's not something that you can fake your identity with that, though. Like, it could be a bait, but it's actually very hard to bait. For example, I have no idea how to actually bring up the upside down question mark on my keyboard. I not even have the slightest clue to how to do that. And I think we might have found MBL. It's probably, like, it's somewhat unlikely it's MBL, But these wars are very, very MBL-like, and I did mention it takes quite a lot of time to wall your base in like this, but we have seen players doing that. Interesting barracks position, by the way. Not necessarily the greatest one, and it's a 21 pop Man-at-Arms build. It makes some sense because you beat your opponent into Feudal Age and you still have the Man-at-Arms out. But by the time they reach the opponent, the Man-at-Arms will be there for Leloy as well. So I don't think this is going to achieve much. Aztecs from this point on should be much, much better, though. I feel like the biggest problem with Bulgarians here is that they are sort of one-trick pony towards this build. Can you control W in the chat window? I don't know. And I don't think that players will be messing around with copy-pasting upside-down question marks into the chat window to bait the opponent into thinking that they are a different person than they really are. That feels way too complicated for any player to do. So, John the Fearless, we'll see if he's actually adding scouts, because it could be very possible, especially with such a big base, that he just wants to boom up into Castle Age from now on. He got Horse Killer, Double Barracks, and it might just be Men-at-Arms into a Castle Age boom here. He tried to trap that eagle over there, so we got one of the trigger-happy players out here who really love trapping units. Man-at-Arms apparently still chilling around here as Leloy sends forward his own Man-at-Arms. The archers will actually be coming after, but the scout will be able to pick off the early archers, so that could actually work out badly for Leloy. And one of the things, like, one of the players that loves to do this Men-at-Arms into Castle Age build is Winchester, although I don't think that he would be doing this with Bulgarians. That being said, there's a Spearman out right now for Leloy trying to finish off that scout. For now, Leloy is pretty much playing open, but he's got the Voyager's Ward on the wood lines. And this is the danger of having all these outside walls. If you are very, very far away from your TC, the Voyagers can't get there in time, and these Man-at-Arms will get in, and now you have to make an archer range, and an archer war against Aztecs is not something that you want with Bulgarians, considering that you don't even have crossbow menu for yourself. And you need to make archers, not skirms, because skirms won't clean up an eagle and Men-at-Arms. So I'm fairly certain that right now, Leloy will just be guarding that hole, making sure that archers come in, and oh my god, a panic Spearman from John the Fearless. The Spearman right now is the most useless unit that you can make. Spearman dies to the Man-at-Arms, and your opponent doesn't have an actual scout, he has an eagle. But the Spearman doesn't do bonus damage against the eagle. Why would you even make a Spearman here? That's super, super panic mode activated. You make a Spearman if your opponent has a scout, that's perfectly fine, but when your opponent has an eagle, the Spearman is completely useless. You could use those two archers to kill the Huntables real quick over here, just to make sure that your opponent can't actually take those later. And really, it seems like John the Fearless has to adjust his plans over here, because he wasn't expecting his opponent to attack him with archers and Men-at-Arms, which I feel like is a little bit ambitious thought, if you think about that. Men-at-Arms coming back right now for John the Fearless, though. Have you seen Dogao in tournament yet? Nope. Although, as I said, I don't want to commit myself to any of the players so far. So, I have some suspicions, but I want to see, at least I want to wait until tomorrow until I actually start committing myself to players. Because I at least want to see all the first sets. Because I don't think there is actually a point committing to any of the players before I see all the games. Oh, hotkey problem. Oh. MBL confirmed. Like, these walls and forgetting to set up your hotkey before the tournament, they are playing on a new account. These are special accounts made on Steam, so it's not the player's personal accounts, otherwise it would be very easy to guess who is who. These are actually brand new Steam accounts. Well, they're not brand new, they were used in Hidden Cup 3 as well, but technically they are clean Hidden Cup focused accounts, and because of that, as we have the skirmishers closing in the distance here, so they're Hidden Cup accounts, which means that the players have to set up their hotkeys, and the fact that this player hasn't set up his hotkeys, or at least not properly, means that he didn't really prepare a lot here for this one. Obviously, or at least he didn't actually bother setting it up for this account, but I know that many players would actually focus a lot more on that. Some players, they forget about things like that. And that's a nice cleanup over there from Leloy. Layloy so far playing a very, very clean game. 38 seconds of T-side all time though, but look at that castle age though from him. Layloy is absolutely rolling over here. John the Fearless already has a range up, and he's gonna go for a stable. He's on the way to castle age though as well. This is actually a very, very fast castle age here. I felt like this feudal age was so short. We got 18 minutes and both players are clicking up. It shouldn't really be a super short thing, but here's the deal. I feel like now I'm starting to understand the Bulgarians pick, and it could be a bit of a counter pick to Aztecs. Think about it this way. What do you do with Aztecs if your opponent goes for feudal age skirmishers? You go for the Eagles. And what do Bulgarians do against Eagles? They clap them with longswords. They have the free upgrades, so they don't need to invest into longsword upgrade. They can just mix a couple of longswords in if they are getting overrun by Eagles. It seems like it's gonna be a Knights play at the end of the day, which is still fine, I believe. What you have to be careful about is that Aztec triple barracks Eagles could be very devastating. We'll see if it's actually triple barracks from Layloy, or he's going to play just double barracks and go for a little bit safer approach. Nice market wars. And do you know who market wars like this? Nikov. It's not really an exclusive thing to him, but I think Nikov is definitely one of those players that likes to play with market wars. This is my play style as well. So when you are getting close to having your wars falling, you just make a market, delete it later on. You make a market, delete it. You don't have to go above 30% HP or so for that. So that could be an idea. There is the second stable coming in here. We will have forging and +1 defense for those knights. For now, second PC coming in for Layloy. So Layloy isn't going all in. He's just going to go for double barracks Eagles. Especially with Aztec production, that's still a reasonable amount of Eagles on the field. Once again, market fall from John the Fearless, as the Eagle Warriors are now slowly coming in. Knights will be on the way soon, monks will be there to support, but it takes forever for those monks to get from the base of Layloy to the base of John, and eventually the Knights should be able to deal with the early Eagles over here. So it looks like we're gonna have a free TC boom from Layloy, or they're mixing in the first monk. The TCs are well positioned, they protect the gold, the wood, so it's actually a very, very nice base overall for Layloy, who has some very, very Doubt-like wars. Doubt was playing like this in King of Desert 3. We're gonna have the Eagles coming in with reasonable numbers though. Upgrades look somewhat mediocre though, just +1 defense, no attack upgrades. That's not amazing against Knights that have +1, +2. And it looks like the archers will try to poke and probe, harass this wood line a little bit, but they can just fall back to this wood line over here. And we will have free TCs as well for our Bulgarian players, still having quite a lot of stone in the bank, thanks to the Bulgarian added benefit. Monk and Spearman should be able to scare away the Knights for the time being. Same for the Scout, though the Scout could actually try picking off a Voyager. Interesting. Interesting. Look at this. Look at this discussion. We don't know much about Layloy's personality about that, but I'm starting to see some personality vibes for John the Fearless over here. Honestly, it's hard to say, but these are some Herald/MBL level reactions so far. With that, there is gonna be the free TC play coming in from both sides. That means that the equals will be relatively comparable, and for now, Layloy is actually going for a relic heavy play. The more I'm looking at Layloy, the more I'm thinking that he is potentially a GL member based on just the style he plays. Safe, not super aggro, goes for early relics, goes for these type of smaller walls. These are characteristics of a GL player, and without that upside down question mark, I would say it is Doubt, but I feel like it is closer to Tato right now. The other side, I think it could be MBL. It could very well be MBL. Because remember that these walls that he's making, these are some MBL level walls. Without further ado though, we are gonna have free DCs from our Bulgarian player, already adding villagers to stone, so creposts or potentially a castle could be a thing in the foreseeable future. Other side, it is free DCs, and we are gonna have a pikeman on the way as well. So, pikemen mixed in here, but here is the answer from Bulgarians, and I'm starting to feel like whoever is John the Fearless, he knew exactly he would be up against Aztecs on Arabia. He could have sniped Aztecs, he didn't do it. That makes me feel like he actually was expecting Aztecs to be picked over here, and that is somewhat predictable because other maps aren't really suiting Aztecs that much. And maybe Bulgarians tries to be a counterpick to Aztecs here with the long swordsmen, with potentially the knights as well. So that could be the idea over here. Still, John the Fearless has to be careful because whoever read this, he's got a very nice monk micro. You see that he's just constantly able to target 4 knights immediately. Arson on the way for Leloy with +2 attack coming in before +2 defense. For now, you got 1 relic inside the monastery. MBLs in every other match. Yeah, this is gonna be tough to guess. This is why I'm saying that I don't want to commit 100% to any player until I see everything. So, Knights now, using their mobility, trying to counterattack Leloy's base. Leloy trying to quick wall against this one, loses 1 Knight to conversion, but that's still a lot of Knights, and there is no defense force over here. Other side, though, we're gonna have a big counterattack with Eagles, and I feel like those Eagles will do a lot more damage than these Knights will, because there's already gonna be a couple of Monks, Pikemen will be supporting, whereas what can you do against Eagles and Pikemen? You can do longswords, but catching up with this army with longswords is a little bit more problematic. Still, Leloy has a lot of idols right now, and Leloy is losing a lot. He's down to 66 villagers, only lost 5 vills, but he had a lot of TC idle time, and we also have longswords coming in. The famous lyrical quote of "infantry is just like cavalry, just worse" is applicable here. Someone actually clipped that, and I said that about longswords. They're just like cavalry, just worse. Because the monks will convert them just as much as they convert knights, but still, these are actually Bulgarian longswords with reasonable upgrades, so they will clap this army, and at the end of the day, this Bulgarian pick works out really well for our blue player. Not only he's possessing a 20+ villagers lead right now, he's absolutely slaughtering this army, and as I said, Bulgarians felt like an interesting and weird pick for Arabia, but it sort of is a counter pick to the Aztecs here. He was probably anticipating the Eagle switch, because Aztecs usually try to switch into Eagles, but with that, he was going for longswords, and longsword generally is a tough tech switch, because the longsword upgrade itself is very expensive. But if you do Bulgarians, that they will have that upgrade for free, so the biggest trouble is pretty much gone. And now a Crepost Rush coming in here. It looks like we're gonna have Leloy switching back into archers, but that's going to take some time. That's a little ambitious, using only 3 longswords to try and get that Crepost up. More longswords will be coming in here to reinforce, but I feel like at this point, John the Fearless no longer has to fear that much, so to say. And he can just go for his own boom, because he's got a 20 villagers lead, although Leloy is floating a lot of food, so technically Leloy could think about Imperial Age and going for Arbalest, and Arbalest would be troublesome for John the Fearless to deal with, but it is a Crepost Rush coming in here from John, and so far he's having the upper hand in this fight. Indeed, Leloy, with the stone count he has, he could actually be thinking about a forward castle even, potentially. Well, not forward castle, Leloy defensive castle against the Creposts, potentially on the gold mine, because you will need that really badly. Konik tries to dive in, snipe the monks, that's not going to succeed, but look at that absolute slaughter that those longswords are doing. They're just smashing everything, and now there is crossbows on the field, but to be honest, that's a lot of longswords. That's a lot of longswords, I mean. And if there's actually some siege support, or just Conics, that also works out really nicely. And really Layloy is in a bit of a trouble here. His crossbows are still fine, but I mean, it's gonna need some sort of way to deal with potential mangonels, because I feel like John the Fearless could just go for mangonels, adding TC number 4, and look at that flood of longswords. Just flooding the map with longswords. He has 37 longswords on the field, 118 villagers. This game is escalating really fast, to be honest. It's an intense game, so to say. It's not something where players just sit back and wait. Do you know what you could do against longswords, though? Jaguar warriors. And Jaguar warriors would be a reasonable idea over here. How do Bulgarian Baggins, 200 swordsmen against Garland War champions? Fairly evenly, I would think, because Baggins is plus 6 melee armor, but it's only 200 swordsmen, whereas champions with Garland Wars is plus 4 attack, I believe, but it's champion, so I would say it's fairly even. Baggins 200 swordsmen versus champion with the Garland Wars is actually fairly even. Now, Imperial will be pretty much identical for both players over here. Cross was launching a big counterattack, and this is something that John the Fearless has to be careful about, because those crossbows could start causing a lot of chaos inside his base, and doesn't really have any defensive siege workshops whatsoever. Defensive castle now coming in here for John, but you also have to consider that Layloy will actually be going for trebs and take down these buildings, and I feel like Layloy is slowly getting back in this one. Picking off the villagers on the castle. He's still 26 villagers behind, but it's Aztec eco, so that's alright. And that could be a big trap. This could be an enormous trap over here, or a great fight for Layloy, to be honest. I think he could have just stuck to that hill. Now, look at that flood of longswords, this feels so bad. I already see the AoE zone post about, like, there was an AoE zone post that infantry is just bad. Look at this. You're just overrunning the crossbows over here, and the stirrups coming in, so it's gonna be stirrups light cav most likely, because there's already light cavs on the field, so I don't think it's gonna be stirrups cavalier. Now, longswords are now slowly getting picked off, and indeed, like, this is not necessarily efficient for John the Fearless. This castle is likely going up though. I don't think that that is actually something that you can stop. And there's going to be 2 castles for Layloy, and Layloy could very well go for his Jaguar warriors, as I said. More stables coming in for light cav, and it's going to be the mobility that John the Fearless wants to use now. So he actually forced his opponent to play Arbalest, and now he has the mobility advantage. It's only Krepos though over here, so I would assume that these Krepos will be history in a matter of moments. We will have plus 4 defense coming in soon for John the Fearless, I believe. And indeed, his Jaguar warriors, look at those majestic beasts. The Jaguar warriors actually is the right response to just swordsmen purely. Arbalest works as well, but Jaguar warriors are fairly reasonable. Violet Cav now, he could go Cavalier, he could, but he needs to think about the long game. He doesn't need Cavalier for what he wants to do. He wants to raid. And for raiding, you don't need Cavalier, you're fine with Light Cav. That being said, that could be an absolute disaster over here. Aztecs do not have Thumbring, but those Arbs are still pretty scary. And they will pick off quite a lot of villagers over here on the wood line. Villager count still in the favor of John the Fearless, but that's a one scary blob of 40 Arbs. Hussar are coming in with stirrups, but I mean, Hussar aren't amazing against Arbalests, especially when the Arbalests have this great numbers. Eventually they will lower the amount of Arbs though, so if you can just keep spamming Hussars at the Arbalests, eventually the Hussars will win, but the cost efficiency isn't really going to be there. You see that it's just a constant stream of Hussar coming in here, slowly grinding down the Arb numbers, and this is what I was talking about. It's not cost efficient by any means, but it is actually able to wind down those Arbalest numbers, and as weird as this looks like, John the Fearless is actually winning this one with just pure light cap. There is the champion over here. Oh, well, it's 200 swordsmen right now only. Arbalest will pick them off really easily. Krepos will go down, no surprise about that. Grab out for Layloy. Layloy is teching into pikemen now because he's up against a lot of Hussar, and it looks like I mentioned Hera and MBL for John the Fearless. I think one of the players that loves this late game early Hussar play is Hera. So he could definitely afford Cavalier. In fact, he's got an insane amount of gold in the bank, but he doesn't need Cavalier for raiding. He just wants to go for Light Cav because he wants to preserve his gold for more important units later on. And he just keeps raiding and raiding and raiding, and that is causing a lot of chaos inside the base of Layloy. I am having some serious hero vibes right now for John the Fearless. Layloy feels more like Taro to me currently, but as I said, I try to limit the amount of speculation. We're gonna have Baggins coming in here, so the swordsman will still be part of the army here for John the Fearless. He's probably expecting more and more pikemen to show up, and now the arbalest numbers aren't amazing, so 23 arbs only. And with that, I think they are mostly grouped up in like one or two big groups, so you can actually have surface to attack with swordsman, 163 pop against 156, but now it is a hill advantage trap here for John the Fearless, trapping down hills, and it's the mobility component, and that is actually a great game plan for John the Fearless over here. The fact that he goes for Bulgarians and goes for swordsman forces the Aztec player to switch back into archers. The Aztec player wanted to play this one with eagles, but one of the civs that can actually respond to that one quite nicely is Bulgarians, and that forces Layloy to go back into arbalests. Layloy goes back to arbs, and now the mobility advantage is on the side of John the Fearless. So this is one big blob of arbalests, now supported by pikemen, which could be a little bit troublesome for John to deal with, but behind this one he's absolutely shattering the base of his opponent. Layloy is down to 94 villagers, and that villager count is just going to keep dropping and dropping and dropping. So Light Cav will probably try to dive in on that trap, and just make sure that you slow down this army. That's all about that. If you slow that down, you can just keep raiding Layloy. 193 population is 166 currently. This wood line was also fouled here on the right side. This is a scary push, but that trap is dangerously exposed. Layloy reacts to that, and you have to focus down those swordsmen that now do have 8 melee armor. Stirrups cavalry is also pretty tough. These pikemen also do not have Garland Wars, so they're not amazing pikemen. These are Castle Age pikemen against fully upgraded Stirrups Hussars. And Stirrups helps quite a lot over here. A couple of swordsmen were left alive as well, and those were able to kill quite a lot of the pikemen, and John the Fearless takes game number 1. I'd really have some hero vibes from this one. This full-on Hussar play, plus, you know, the sort of rage, so to say, on the hotkeys is something I can completely imagine from Hera. With that, John the Fearless takes a very, very convincing game number 1 over here. So we'll take a look at the home maps of the players real quick. Mudflow for Layloy Islands, as well Cup Bay were also maps that I can totally imagine for a player like Hera, to be honest. As the surprising but very well selected Bulgarians pick is going to pay off here for John the Fearless. Other side, the Aztecs pick for Layloy won't work out, and Lithuanians is already gone. Indians is an interesting civilization selection. I think we have seen one Indians pick before on a Mudflow, and that could help connect the dots. Yesterday we had a Mudflow Indians pick, and considering that I was suspecting Taro for Layloy, that would confirm Doubt if this is really Taro. I think Doubt and Taro probably practice together. I don't know who Viper would practice with. I think Viper would probably practice a little bit with Taro. But I feel like in terms of similarities, in Hidden Cup 3, the two players that had very, very similar strategies were Doubt and Taro. So Viper was a little bit more distinguishable from these two players. So yeah, I'm going to take a look at my notes. If it's indeed Indians on Mudflow, that's going to give us a lot of information, I believe. Okay, so with that, we will go to the first home map of Layloy, which could be Islands or Mudflow. If it's Mudflow, it's possibly Franks, to be honest, but Indians is not impossible either. Indians was an early pick for Layloy. So we will see what he does with that. I don't think that Indians is amazing for Cup. Could be a sieve for Bay potentially. Although no, that there is no way. Think about it this way: Lithuanians and Mongols were the picks for Leloy for Bay, so he was going to go Mongols after losing Lithuanians. His islands pick is a question. His cup is going to be probably Celts. Byzantines could be the island sieve. I don't know where Indians is going though. That's my biggest problem right now. I just can't figure out where Indians would go. Other side, I think it's a little bit more straightforward. Italians or Portuguese will go for islands. Portuguese could also go for Mudflow potentially. Cup will be probably Japanese, as we will have the second game up, so we'll actually speculate about this later. So let's get into game number 2 over here, shall we? So we will go to islands. Over here, we will jump into game number 2. So, hello, Capture Age? Capture Age? It seems like Capture Age is actually refusing to cooperate, which means that I have to restart it. Not really a big deal, it's Islands Dark Age, so we're not really going to miss anything. Indeed, here it goes. So, we are gonna have Leloy once again as Byzantines on the right side as red, and on the other side we're going to have John the Fearless as Portuguese in blue. So, oh my goodness. Those berries are an absolute disaster. There is no restarts in the main event, so you can't call restart because of that. But these berries are awful, this stone is bad, this other stone is awful, the gold mines are great, and the wood lines are okay for John the Fearless, but these berries actually hurt you so much, because if you lose the water in mid-feudal age, you won't be able to access your berries, which is an important part of the mid to late feudal age food eco. Other side, it's a fairly bulky island for John the Fearless with some mediocre forests. These are partially deniable. These peninsulas actually hurt quite badly, like this bay as well over here. Nice little pond over here for a little bit of a shorefish. Once you TC this one, it's going to be a nice little boost. Not really a big deal. The gold and stone here are absolutely nice. The other gold is nice. The stone here is borderline. And this wood line is also pretty much decent as well. It's a snowy scenery as well. You see that there is actually some snow on the field as well. That's actually pretty rare. To a point where I... Wait a second. This script is very different from what we have seen on islands so far. There is wood in this island in the middle. And now you have 2 gold mines on the same island and the relic, and stone mine on the other side. This is very different from the scripts that we have seen so far, which raises the question of which version the players played. Because there is a chance that maybe there were adjustments made to the maps, like critical bug fixes whatsoever, if they found something that's problematic in the map script. I know it's a hidden... Oh, you're right. You're totally right. It's the Hidden Cup free islands. They messed this up. They messed this up, and I was actually pointing that out in Hidden Cup free, that I don't like that there is 2 gold mines and 1 relic on one island and stone on the other. That is just bad. So this is why in the new version, one of the gold mines was put to the other island. Also, there was no wood over here. Still, players Hidden Cup free islands. They didn't even notice that. It's actually hard to notice, by the way. I don't blame them for that. Players probably have like 100 map scripts to select from. I also have like about 200 map scripts installed, because whatever tournament I ever casted, I have the map scripts installed for that. So I have like from KOTD to Hidden Cup free through Bonjwa Fight Night and Tete Invitational and Clown Cup and Big Nomad Cup and Empire Wars Duo. I have all the map scripts for those, and it actually starts to become very, very confusing at some point. Still, It seems that just by looking at this map, I feel like the Hidden Cup 4 version of Islands is actually way better. The free arch ranges meme that T90 has is still something that can be found over here. This is the first version of Islands where you could actually find that. I think Hidden Cup 2 Islands didn't have that Easter egg just yet. With that being said, let's talk about John the Fearless's dock position, which is a back dock play. If we actually assume it's Hera, then it is very possible that he will try a fast castle play here, or even a landing potentially. If that is Loom and it's a feudal, it's a landing. And I can totally imagine Hera saying, I don't want to land, especially because I suspect that this is Taro. Taro also doing a back dock play over here. It could be back dock, fast castle for fire ships. That's a reasonable thing for Byzantines? Nope, it's not. It's transport. It's transport from Leloy, and it could be transport as well for John the Fearless once that fishing ship finishes. Interesting. Yeah, indeed, both players do have little ponds over here on the island. That's something that was removed in the Hidden Cup 4 version of Islands. So these little ponds have been completely removed. And no, John the Fearless just wants to go for standard galley rush. Interesting. In this case, this has to be straight galleys and not fire galleys. Obviously, it makes more sense for Portuguese to go for galleys, because you don't want to fight with fire galleys against Byzantines, but this leaves your base very, very open for landing, and Leloy knows about that. Look at that little peninsula helping out here, picking up these little villagers, and we'll switch to the POV of our blue player to see if he spots the transport. It makes sense for him to assume that the opponent will try to land over here, because that's the furthest away from his base, and he sees the transport. He knows exactly the transport is there. You could see that Leloy moved to the left immediately to try and avoid being spotted, but I think that John the Fearless has saw that. He should have seen it. Right? It was only visible for a split second, and if he was looking elsewhere, he might have missed that. It doesn't seem like he's reacting to it. I think John the Fearless just missed that landing. It was only visible for a split second, as I said. Look at that moonwalking scout over there. But really, he doesn't really know about that. And I don't see any buildings coming up. So John the Fearless had the option to see this, but he actually missed out on it. We're actually going to have the galleys coming out. 3 docks for John the Fearless. This is definitely something that I can imagine Hera doing. So Hera is not really an experienced Islands player. He's good. But triple backdoor galley play here, I'm not necessarily convinced. And it looks like he's not even splitting his ships. That's actually sort of a bad decision. Okay, he needs to split his ships. Because you don't know where your opponent's dock is at. You can't assume it's always at the back. So I feel like, especially when Byzantines could go for fire galleys, the Byzantine player's dock could be over here. So you have to split your galleys and check where your opponent is. As indeed, for a moment, John the Fearless seems a little bit lost on water. He isn't really aware of where to go. And there's already a tower coming up. Still, John has no idea about that happening on his island. Okay, now he sees the range. He's gonna try to wall himself off. But look at these gold spawns. Look at these gold spawns. Both of the gold mines could be denied by Leloy. And what are you gonna do if you don't have gold? You could say, okay, you're gonna mine stone, and you can just sell stone, but that requires a market. That's actually also expensive to build. This is a disaster for John the Fearless. He's gonna be without gold. These gold spawns are pretty unfortunate for him, because both of the gold mines can be denied. Honestly, if you're John the Fearless right now, you might transport your villagers to the middle and take that gold. So, I was suspecting there was a hole in between, but I wasn't sure about that, and I thought that John the Fearless will just wall it off if there is. But apparently that failed, and that's going to cause further annoyance, because those archers can now hit the back of the wood line. If these walls go up, It would have been harder for Leloy to get here, although it's not impossible because he still has the transport going on for him. And this is a landing that was very, very similar to Lix's playstyle, from the aspect that he is actually dropping a dock on the opponent's island as well, because that's the safest play for your fishing ships, basically. Also, he's got automatic reseeding on the fish traps. That's actually something that I don't think a lot of people turn on. Might actually be accidental. So, right now the best bet for John the Fearless is to go for his own range and go for skirmisher defense. I think I would have loved to see Leloy dropping a tower here, though, because I feel like now that the skirmishers are out, the archers will be picked off. If there was a tower that's walled in here, it would have been nearly impossible for John the Fearless to reclaim his gold. And when he doesn't have gold, he isn't really able to make a lot of galleys, and he will just get overrun by fire galleys. Archers will once again be transported around to hit the back of the stone mine. The fishing eco is still there for John the Fearless. In fact, he's got a 5 vultures lead, but fire ships will be heading that way, and the archers will be popping out any moment over here, so the stone mine has to be evacuated. The plan for John the Fearless was to sell stone for gold, as there is the skirmishers out now. The scout is relatively low HP, so it's not going to help against the skirmishers, and this is why I said that I feel like a tower here on the gold mine could have actually made some sense. We're gonna have the galleys sinking the fishing eco of Leloy though, and that means 2 fishing ships escape. That's actually a nice one from Leloy. It looks like John the Fearless will dispatch 2 galleys to chase, and the rest of them will chase the fire galley here. Still, there is a nice low fishing eco in this corner for our red player. Archers looping around. There is a leak villager over here that could be picked off, but so far they're focusing the lady. The lady is not willing to die, and the skirmishers will eventually catch the archers. Still, at the end of the day, the castlage times will actually be pretty similar, as John the Fearless has to escort his fishing eco into the corner. This is something that Leloy could definitely find, and he could finish off those fishing ships very, very easily. So this could definitely be cleaned up, and now he sees it. He should just go and kill, because that's a massive eco lead from that for Leloy. Apparently the fire ship or fire models are missing from capture age right now. You see that these guys are just staring down at each other with both of them losing HP, but you just gotta imagine the fire and flames over there. The win is going to be on the side of John the Fearless, saving that fire galley at 1 HP, because even though the Byzantine fire galleys are actually able to deal a lot more damage, the Portuguese fire galleys have more HP. So it looks like we're gonna have a Leloy with scale barding, which means he will actually continue with a stable. For now, John the Fearless is fine, and he's mining stone really heavily, and he's selling that for gold. And he was able to keep his fishing eco alive. So we shouldn't underestimate the fact that there is a 10 villagers lead right now for John the Fearless. He's unable to access gold, but I think he's securing some ground for himself on water, with 6 galleys, 4 fire galleys against just 4 fire galleys simply. You could even make a case, as I said, for transporting to this island and go for the gold over there. It's not urgent though for John the Fearless. He can still sell stone. Wouldn't even be surprised to see a castle. Like, that's the worst case scenario. Drop a castle here and secure that gold mine for yourself. Galleys will intercept a fire galley that is just about to get upgraded to fire ship. In the meanwhile, we'll have 2 TCs coming in for a Leloy. He continues to go for fire ships, but his docks are so spread out. In fact, the majority of the docks are here, and the fire ships will actually suffer from the problem that demos will just sink them so easily, whereas galleons will have a much better resource retention. I might actually restart capture age here, seeing all this, you know, the glitches with the fire ships. Never seen this bug before. But yeah, you can just imagine the flames over there. Once we have a bit of a peaceful moment, I will actually restart capture age. And that way, but hopefully that gets fixed. Second DC coming in right now for John the Fearless as well. So with that, I think this is the right moment. Although nope, there is going to be some fire ships coming in here once again. Oh, they came back even without restarting. I don't know what happened, but apparently I managed to fix it. There's going to be a 3rd town center on the way for Leloy. as here comes the big demo shot from our red player. And if this is really a Taro versus Hera setup, then I would assume that Taro is actually able to take more reasonable water engagements. And so far, that's exactly what we are seeing over here. Some big demo shots coming in, though. And that means that these fireship fleets will just pretty much cancel each other. With that, the war galleys will clean up the rest of the fleet over here, and John the Fearless is actually reclaiming control over his base. Leiloi trying to go for some knights over here, but I feel like if that castle goes up, this push is going to stall out. It's gonna be tricky though, because there is knights around here, there is mangonels coming in, so this castle is gonna be a little bit dangerous to attempt for John the Fearless. Here come the knights, quick wars are up, and the war galleys will take care of the rest. Mangonel is also on the way, but I think that this castle goes up, and if that castle goes up, we'll be looking at a Portuguese player, and the Portuguese will be much better than Byzantines in post-Imperial. So there is going to be only one shot for Byzantines, and that is fast fires in early Imperial. If that doesn't work out, then I think that the Portuguese will just simply clap the Byzantines in post-Imperial with the way better galleons that they are having. The Knights will still try to be a little bit annoying, and eventually John the Fearless will have to secure this other gold mine for himself, but that's not super urgent, and he's gonna have time to clean this one up. And behind this one, I think that he's now getting a reasonable galleon. Well, not the galleon right now, just war galley numbers up. Other side, we have 53 villagers versus 59 right now. Fishing ship counts are still there for both Leiloi and John the Fearless. We don't have a monastery just yet for John. I think if you are Leiloi, though, you are actually trying to steal this relic from your opponent. Because that's going to be something important, and it looks like the Knights will bash their way through the walls, something that John the Fearless wasn't prepared for, and now the Knights are running past the eco. That's going to be very annoying for John to deal with. It's not something that can kill an awful lot, it's more about the annoyance factor. In this one, beautiful quick walls from John, definitely possible. As I said, I'm suspecting Hera here, and the quick walls that he's making would actually justify that. Now the Knights will probably run past the market and try to loop all the way around. Let's see if we're gonna have another quick wall. Indeed, here comes the quick wall over there. TC fire should be able to weaken those Knights enough so that they can't cause a lot more trouble. Behind this one, fireships are trying to chase down the war galleys, but the war galleys are still there, no ballistics whatsoever for them. But look at the resources for John the Fearless. He's actually getting close to Imperial, and if he gets to Imperial, he's gonna have a massive advantage. He's also very heavy on stone. Look at that, 15 villagers on stone, 1,100 stone in the back. He could drop 2 castles if he wanted to, and I just wonder where he's going to drop those castles. That's the real question. I can see him dropping a castle somewhere around over here, like delete that farm and drop a castle here, drop docks, and then just go for front docks from now on. Nice quick was once again from John the Fearless, trapping that army in there. And it looks like the fireships will also be cleaned up for now. Careening on the way for Leiloi, so he's going to have some extra pierce armor against those war galleys, but reality is that, as I said, John the Fearless is getting close to clicking into Imperial here, and if that's Imperial Age, he's gonna have the fleet advantage to potentially land on the middle islands and drop a castle there, or to land on Leiloi's island and drop a castle on that side. Or an alternative is that you can also drop Feitorias with Portuguese. Feitorias do cost stone, but you probably want to max out your population as much as possible. So once you reach Imperial, Feitorias will definitely be an option as well for John the Fearless, losing some of his fishing eco, and he falls behind in eco numbers now. It is 82 to 75, but right now John is just waiting for Imperial Age. He's still a little low on gold though, only 6 villagers mining gold right now for him. He needs to send a lot more of those for gold, but it looks like Leiloi actually wants to buy himself up as well. So we are gonna have Imperial Age coming in here for him as well. He needs to build on that fast fireship power spike. That's his best bet. If that doesn't work out, he's gonna be in massive problems. Right now, University is just coming in for John the Fearless. He wants to get ballistics, obviously, and he already has Voyagers being garrisoned to transport. The question is, where is that transport going? That transport could be going here on this island, or it could be going on this island. And I feel like if John the Fearless is really Hera, I think that transport is going on this island. Nope, it's going to the middle. Still, reasonable amount of war galleys on the field. He has a 1 minute advantage into Imperial. I think it's a safer play if you just drop a castle in the middle over here. Here comes that castle, and the second castle could also be a possibility soon for John. And this is the gold island, which is extremely important for both players. So it will be a little bit more balanced in the Hidden Cup 4 version of this map. So it would be 1 gold mine over here and 1 gold mine over here. But in Hidden Cup 3 we had 2 gold mines on this island. That was the gold island, which was so important. The monk is trying to come in here to steal the relic. I would like to point out that Leiloy has already stolen the relic from the island of the opponent. So as you see, he's got 2 relics garrisoned, 1 relic over here, and he's trying to go for that relic. So big relic yoink over there from Leiloy. And he's gonna be sitting on 4 relics, which is nice, but you're up against Portuguese, and Portuguese will be sitting on Feitorias in the long run. We are gonna have the castle up for John the Fearless, some additional docks on the front as well, and should be Galleon Bracer chemistry, and even more importantly, I feel like the biggest thing here would be dry dock. Obviously you need careening for that first, but dry dock would be very, very important against the fast fire ships. Interesting, it's a 2 Voyager castle over here by Leiloy, as he's trying to block those Voyagers, but I feel like John the Fearless will just drop his own castle here. Well, obviously he can't actually build it over there, but there isn't really enough villagers over here for Leiloy to finish that castle in a reasonable pace, and now a knight pops out, so this castle is going to be a little bit problematic over here for John the Fearless. The castle fire should be able to keep that Voyager alive though. Well, not that one, but the other ones. So it's gonna be 2 castles versus 1. The trap war should be on the side of John the Fearless. He's got Galleon. Bracer is missing though, prioritizing chemistry right now. Potentially for some bombard cannons later on, as fast fires are in. So this is the moment where John the Fearless has to be very careful, especially with dry dock coming in for Leiloy. And dry dock here would result in those galleons being overrun by fire ships really, really easily, especially with no bracer for John the Fearless, and chemistry is still 30 seconds away. This would be a disaster for John the Fearless. This is the type of fight that the Byzantines are looking for. The fast fire ships with dry dock, getting a good surround on the galleons, and you see that those galleons are just absolutely getting torn apart. Now they have the attack upgrade, so it helps a little bit, but a couple of demos would be extremely helpful right now for John the Fearless. Still, many of those fire ships actually have a relatively low HP, and I think that John the Fearless will be able to retain his army, partially helped by the castle fire. The castle is helping immensely over here. Look at all the damage it's causing. The castle might have been the difference maker in this fight, and in retrospective, this seems like an overextension from Leiloy, who has been pushed down to just 9 military units. It is a Byzantine castle with 7,000 HP, so it's going to be hard to kill, but not impossible for John the Fearless, who hosts the middle island, and most importantly, very, very strong and formidable fleet, 25 galleons against just 9 fast fires. These are also Portuguese galleons, so they have a lot of HP for them. The castle is still being repaired, but there should be bombard cannons coming in soon for John the Fearless with chemistry, or he could just keep adding traps if he wants to, but he needs to add some more to deal with those traps, otherwise this could be a little bit more problematic. More docks coming in the right side by Leiloy, trying to go for fast fires still, attacking into Botkin though, so Bracer is available for Byzantine, so technically they could play galleons if they want to. Obviously those galleons will be way inferior compared to the Portuguese ones, but that's definitely something that you can consider, especially now that there's a lot of galleons on the field from the opponent. Bombard can try to take down the only trap that John has over here. Galleons now coming in, trying to finish off the archer range, as the organ guns actually were massively mismigrate over here. 4 organ guns dying over here. Bombard cannon micro coming in for John, and he doesn't have arquebus right now on those bombard cannons, but still, I mean, he can always bring in more Voyagers to repair his castles, whereas his opponent has a limited availability here. Still, the lack of dry dock actually hurts really badly for John the Fearless. He doesn't even have careening, but dry dock is a must-have against such fire ships, because you need to be able to outrun them. Just like with cav archers, you need husbandry really badly so that you can actually, you know, hit and run, hit and run. Same thing against fire ships with galleons. You need dry dock really badly, especially if those fire ships already have dry dock. That means that they catch up with your galleons really, really easily. Castle fire helps immensely here, by the way. So you see that many of those fast fire ships actually die to the castle fire, not necessarily the galleons. Elite skirm now in for Leloy. He just wants to keep this landing on and try to pressure that gold mine, try to starve his opponent out of gold. It's only 14 galleons now for Jordan Fearless, so his galleon numbers have definitely dropped quite considerably. But, I mean, the only thing that John the Fearless is in the need of is just taking down that castle. It's easier said than done though, that's for sure, because that's a Byzantine castle, and, I mean, Leloy is sitting on 1500 stone, so, really, taking that castle down is extremely hard. Still, now the bombard cannon micro is starting to favor John the Fearless over here. Nice move over there from Leloy, dodging one shot. Little dodgeball over here. Traps shooting at each other. And another bombard cannon goes down from John the Fearless, which allows Leloy to once again push those traps. It looks like John the Fearless is actually struggling quite a bit cleaning this one up on his island. Now there is Cataprax, now there is Elite Skirms pushing in. And it would be awkward to see, if this is really Hera for John the Fearless, it would be awkward to see him losing to the landing and not necessarily to the water fights, because he's technically winning water, but he's definitely having a tough time defending against this landing over here. Now it's archer armor coming in, and it's gonna be rams. Soon rams actually start rolling, and one thing that we have to consider is that Leloy's eco is completely untouched on his island, 127 villagers, whereas John the Fearless is struggling more and more at actually keeping up production over here. He's gonna attack into light cav, but he doesn't really have the siege to knock this castle down. And yeah, he has a neutral island, but what does that worth if you lose half of your wood income? Because one thing that you have to consider is that John the Fearless is running out of wood. This is the only safe wood line for him right now. Everything else is either empty or just completely unsafe. And this game might actually go down to wood denial and not necessarily gold denial. Over here, nice shot from those bombard cannons though. And this is still winnable by far for John the Fearless, but I think he needs to commit a little bit more to cleaning this one up here. Especially with now the skirmishers diving in on the bombard cannons, vultures coming in to repair. And with that, I think that those skirmishers were just enough to make sure that Leloy is able to take this castle down. And if this castle goes down, suddenly this gold mine is no longer as safe as it used to be. So, gold wood could be a problem for John the Fearless over here. And I don't think that he's fearless anymore. In fact, he's probably very, very afraid of the fact that this game is going to be an evening game for the series. Because as good as he was playing on water, he's just getting clapped on land. And Byzantines are always tough to deal with when it comes to landing, because those castles have 7,000 HP. It's extremely hard to destroy them. They have bombard cannons available, they have traps available, they have rams available, and now they're actually starting to push the wood eco of John the Fearless. Look at John's wood eco. He's got none. He's gonna have to transport these villagers into the middle island. This ship actually carries 5 villagers because there is not even careening in it. So for every 5 villagers, you have to take a trip here, drop them off for that wood line. And that's not gonna work out. There is no stone income for John the Fearless. If he loses this castle, this is game over, because he's gonna have no gold income either. And, well, he's gonna have gold income in the middle island, but that's going to run out really soon. And Leloy is just going to happily start chopping these trees over here. Fast fires coming in as well. Here comes the big light calf board. Something that, once again, Hera would do. It's not exclusively Hera, obviously, against skirmishers. It doesn't actually require a Nobel Prize-winning scientist to figure out that you play light cav against the skirmishers. But still, Hera is definitely one of those players that actually groups up 10 light cav, brings them out. I don't know if this is gonna be enough for Leloy. He's definitely shelling that castle. John the Fearless is forced to buy stone to repair. Look at the fire ships though. The fire ships are absolutely melting those light cav voyagers as well. 134 voyagers against 97, and one trap is still standing. I think that this is not enough though. This is not enough for Leloy. Still, I mean, look at the eco of John the Fearless right now. And sure, you are actually able to keep that castle up, or Is it even going to be a castle up? I don't think so, because apparently John the Fearless is running out of stone, and this trap will go down, I believe, but the other trap is still there, and out of stone is John the Fearless. The castle goes down, and with that, the game is probably over for our blue player. Now Fastfare is actually getting a nice round on those galleons, and I feel like the more I'm seeing from John the Fearless, the more I'm thinking Hera. His water play wasn't amazing. It was a good water play, but he got outplayed by the opponent, and I'm really starting to feel Taro versus Hera here. Because this is... Taro is a beast on islands. And he took down a player that wasn't super amazing on islands, good overall player, but you saw that this islands is not his primary map, and that kind of fits Hera as well. So with that, Leloy wins the game, and what I want to show really is this 67,000 resources compared to 48,000. So that is crazy resource advantage. 10,000 more wood, 3,000 more food, 6,000 more gold. Stone count was dead even. Relic gold was also bigger for Leloy. He collected 4 relics, including one that he stole from the middle island and one that he stole from the opponent's island. So this was just much, much better played by Leloy. And we will go into the drafting scene over here. And we will cross out Byzantines for Leloy. And we will cross out Portuguese for John the Fearless. Now we're going for one of the home maps for John, which is either Cup or Bay. So let's see. And oh yeah, according to Robo, I'm just going to quote here. I'm just going to quote, okay? I'm going to quote what Robo says about the Islands pick. By the way, yes, they are noobs and played wrong version of Islands. That's exactly what Robo said about them. So, well, it is what it is. They played the wrong version of Islands. The good old-fashioned retro Hidden Cup free version of Islands was played in this set. I don't think it mattered, though. I think what mattered was that John the Fearless wasn't able to stop that landing. He wasn't able to take down the castle of the opponent. And imagine, like, he tried dropping a castle at the same position, but he was just a little too late. If he actually is able to get that castle up before a red player gets the castle, then that would have been a completely different game. But red was able to get the castle up before John, and that resulted in a very, very nice forward position for a red player who just kept on pressing the opponent's eco, whereas his own eco back at home was completely untouched. We have game number 3 available now as a recorded game, so we will jump in there in a moment. So game number 3 coming in here, Leloy versus John the Fearless. You used Hidden Cup free islands. Also, we're pointing out that John the Fearless is saying let's go Bay. I think that's something that Hera likes to say a lot. We're going to have Mongolia resubbing for the 3rd month now. Welcome back. Thank you so much for the support. We're going to have a Bay, also known as Pens. Over here, left side is Leloy as Red Mongols. Right side is Italians in blue, which I think is sort of a counter pick to Mongols, to be honest, on this map. Until Mongols get to Onagers and Rams, this is actually a counter pick to Mongols, because Genoese crossbows can deal with early Mangodai quite nicely. And obviously, the distance to travel between the two players is actually pretty small. The Italian army is actually quite slow, but for this map, you don't need an awful lot of mobility until late game. Most of the fighting is going to happen around this area. Once you're in late game, you absolutely need mobility, and that's where Italians will struggle, though Italians do have reasonable Hussar. But still, I feel like I actually like Italians a little bit more than Mongols. Mongols is more like the conventional civilization pick for this map. So with that, we are gonna have a deer being pushed in here by Leloy. This is actually very, very far away deer push, but it makes sense for a civ like Mongols. Probably want to go for a very, very fast feudal age over here to get A couple of fire galleys out before the opponent is able to capture age. That was a massive lag spike. Let me check. Feels weird. Not sure what happened there to capture age, but he's back in action, so no worries. So we're gonna have our Italian player on the right side with a fairly vulnerable map, but no safe wood lines at the back. It's a super empty base at the back. There is gold, and this other gold is also reasonable. The stone mine is exposed as always, but the biggest problem, as I said, is all of the wood lines are very exposed to potential archer aggression. Other side, there's a wood line at the back, there's a gold at the back. The stone is on the front once again, but I feel like this is actually a better map for our red player. First hits will be landed here by John the Fearless, which means that Leiloi won't be able to delay that dock. So we will have the second board already in for our Mongols player, and once you finish off with that, I'm fairly certain he's gonna pick up. I would expect something like a 17, not 17 pop, but 18, 19 pop. Should be more than doable for our Mongols player. It looks like this house was interrupted, but I wonder if this is just queued up after this dock for John the Fearless. Dock up right now for him, same timing for his opponent. And it looks like John is going to disengage from the opponent's scout. There is 6 HP less right now for Leiloi. So, second board just now coming in for John the Fearless. That's the standard timing of bringing in a boar. And you see 4 villagers jumping into these. That's a very hero-like thing to do. I am getting closer and closer thinking that this is hero. Other side, as I said, it is a standard Mongols opening. I think you will click up right after Loom over here. And it ends up being a 20 pop feudal on a map with fish. That's actually a fairly reasonable feudal age with our Mongols. And the real question is, what is John going to do? How much he's going to contest water? He's not going to click up that later, though. And one of the reasons why Italians are a so good matchup for, or so good matchup over here against Mongols is because you can actually click up to feudal age a little bit earlier, and that helps catching up to the Mongols player that actually has the insane food eco at the beginning. So Mongols will likely beat you to feudal, but you would probably try to be as close to the Mongols, the feudal age, as possible. And civilizations like Italians, civilizations like Lithuanians help so much with that. So, standard galley rush apparently over here for John the Fearless. Leiloi is actually having a scout around, maybe trying to snipe a villager on the second dock. No second dock just yet for Leiloi. Instead, he's probably going to go for a mill on the huntables, something that Mongol players often do. It's only 3 huntables here though, so I'm not sure if it's actually worth the mill for Leiloi, but it seems like he's only going to play with 1 dock, and that seems to be the case. Nope, John the Fearless wants a second dock as well. This villager is actually a second docking villager. Or not. It looks like both players actually want to play land. So, 1 dock only. This is something that's also sort of a new meta for this map. In Hidden Cup 3, most of the players played just water engagements all the time. It was a very repetitive map, to be honest. It was always, okay, I'm gonna bring in my fire galleys and fight yours, type of a thing. Now it's actually a feudal age scout, as Leiloi is trying to take this engagement, finishes off the opponent's scout. That was a nice, well-calculated timing over there for him, before his opponent was able to reach into feudal age, and he was still able to take down the opponent's scout, despite fighting against the villager as well. So, with that, we're gonna have a galley out, interestingly. Fire Galley and Galley is the name of the game as well. The galleys kill the opponent's fishing ships much faster, so that's the main reason why you're going for them. Over here, there's gonna be an archer range on the way, and not really a lot of woes from Leiloi, but these woes actually make me think that he wants to secure that stone super early for himself. We will have 3 villagers at the back on gold. I think that this is going to be a typical scenario of no one actually bothers with the water. I think our blue player is just going to wait until 2 or 3 galleys and then unpop them, and then we'll just micro them around to take down fire galleys. There's also a galley coming in for Leiloi, but both players will just pretty much lose their fishing eco. Still, there is already a range up for our blue player, range as well for Leloy. They will actually play a very, very similar game. So it's definitely more of the aggro play. I've noticed this in the Arabia game as well, that it was definitely one of the more aggressive games. Wasn't really a lot of downtime, it was constant fighting and fighting, as it looks like John the Fearless doesn't care about the opponent's combat ships, he just goes to snipe down fish. And there it goes, one fishing ship sails to the bottom of the ocean. The second one is going to be picked off most likely over here as well. Standard good old-fashioned galley micro, there is no more ships being added by either side, so it's 2 versus 2. Right now, the HP overall looks way better though for Leloy, so I don't think that John can actually finish off the opponent's fishing eco with just these 2 galleys. Although he's definitely trying to. Finds the fishing ship, this fishing ship is just running for his poor little life. But I think that this fishing ship will go down, but Leloy will clean up the water. There is a fire galley now coming in, so... Oh, nope. Fishing ship survives for the time being, and we're gonna have John the Fearless coming in here with a fire galley. Archer-wise, where they have archers moving forward. Archer's just patrolling back at home here for Leloy, as his grand idea is that, okay, it's fine to play land, but if we play land, I want to hunt. And that's a good idea. Because with Mongols, you actually have a way better eco compared to your opponent right now. Because you just keep sending villagers to hunt. Your food eco is insane. If you look at those resources, I am fairly certain that that those resources are looking amazing, especially now that you're gonna have horse color and double bit axe. You will actually start farming as well, but these extra huntables, you might even venture out for these, but I really like this defensive playstyle from Leloy. Look at these big walls over here, but I like the concept of this strategy. It is okay if my opponent knows, or if my opponent is going land, I'm just going to hunt. I wonder if Leloy knows who he's up against. Because if he knows that he's up against, let's say, Hera, then he probably suspects that his opponent isn't going to push water that much, and that's why he isn't contesting water that much either. He added one more fishing ship, but that's just going to get destroyed by the fire galleys over here. And now that John the Fearless is actually securing water, he's going to be the one adding fishing ships for himself. There is also a skirmisher in here to scare the archers of John the Fearless back to his base, but look at the resources. Look at those resources, man. With a market, Leloy can actually start balancing his eco and buying himself up to Castle Age. Mongols hunt is crazy, man. And yeah, there's gonna be some fishing eco for John the Fearless, but reality is that he's gonna get beaten to Castle Age quite badly, to be honest. Although, with the cheaper Italian Castle Age, he's not gonna be that much behind, but I would expect at least 30 seconds coming in. So, farms already being added with horse color. Other side has a lot of farms without horse color. That's going to hurt your eco in early to mid Castle Age, having 16 farms without horse color. It seems like John the Fearless isn't able to afford it right now. He's focusing more on the fishing ships. But really, 15, 16 farms without horse color hurts so much. Leloy indeed on the way towards Castle Age in a matter of moments at the second range. And we will see if he just wants to play crossbows or potentially wants to go for a cav archer play with Mongols. It could definitely be possible trying to use the mobility of the Mongol cav archers to hit these wood lines at different times, as the archers will now actually try to hit these villagers over here. This could be dangerous for Leloy. He is going to spot the archers and will probably bring in his skirmishers to help out, but he still needs to be careful with his villagers. Indeed, he's force dropping the food, and it's not actually force drop, they just finished here, so they can run back home. I think they did their job. There is no point risking those villagers more by moving out to these hunts. You can just run back home and start farming crazily. And that being said, the food eco is much better for Leloy because of the hunt, but John the Fearless is coming in here with the archers, and as I said, I don't think that it was worth it for Leloy to keep these villagers out here. And you also have to consider that, yes, the hunt is now gone. It looks like he actually wanted to go for this deposit of hunt, but that's already 2 villagers down. And the thing is that when you run out of hunt, your food eco is going to be about 4 farms, whereas John the Fearless has 16 farms working for him. So once the hunt runs out for a Mongols player, suddenly the food eco for our Italian player is going to be much, much better. Skirmishers will be drawn away by the archers over here, and you see that, as I said, the cheaper Italian Castle Age helps quite a bit over here, catching up. John the Fearless now has a 6 villagers lead, by the way. Part of that comes from the fact that Layloy had some TC idle time. Part of that comes from the villagers that were killed over here. And that is going to result as we have a bit of an archer fight over here. There is no armor on either side, but Castle Age is slightly better for Layloy, and that means that he's going to have like a 10 seconds advantage into crossbow. It's double range archers right now for John the Fearless. Same thing we're seeing from Layloy. Archers could actually just try to snipe those huntables, so they limit the amount of hunt that is available for Layloy. That's why Layloy himself is shooting those, so he can actually take those before they would actually be lamed. There is a bit of a fishing eco here for John the Fearless, but it's not really something that's huge. I feel like this is the type of thing where it's going to be a nice little extra addition to your food eco, but you don't invest a lot into that. With that being said, we have a 1TC play over here from John the Fearless, and with that food eco, it's not impossible that he will try a 1TC imp and an aggressive play. Ballistics and +1 defense just now coming in. No second TC for Layloy either. He sold 100 stone to go up, and he's gonna go for ballistics himself. Right now, crossbow numbers are fairly close. It's 13 to 9, but there is +1 defense in for John the Fearless. Ballistics will be a couple of seconds later for him than it is for the opponent. Still, the crossbow micro is going to decide a lot of things over here, as John is going to pick off. Oh, that's some nice crossbow dancing from both sides. That's some very, very nice crossbow dancing. And it looks like Layloy is actually winning this one temporarily. And yes, indeed, Layloy is going to actually clean this one up. Or will he? I think this actually ends up being a fairly decent trade for John. For a moment, it seemed like he's going to lose it, but look at that micro nerd. That's some crazy micro over here. Anyways, we are gonna have double ranges, second TC coming in here for John, so he's not gonna go for a 1TC imp here. Second TC on the way as well for Layloy. And the +1 defense just now coming in for him. But as I said, once he runs out of hunt, he basically has 5 farms, 6 farms working for him. That's not really satisfactory. Whereas his opponent, now it's only 10 farms, because as I said, many of those farms run out because of the lack of horse color. But still, it's gonna be a lot more well-developed food eco, so to say, especially once he's able to actually start seeding these farms. He doesn't really need a lot of food right now. He's still floating 900. And so we're gonna have a forward workshop coming in here for Layloy. And changes his mind, goes for what could possibly be a workshop somewhere around over here to try and push this TC. Crossbows will actually launch a counterattack, pick off 1 crossbow over here. The walls are actually very, very nice for Layloy. Look at these. These are impossible to get through without siege. The weakest part of the wall is over here, but that is easy to re-wall because the villagers are close by. So really, these crossbows have 0 chance of breaking into Layloy's base. Layloy is behind by 6 villagers, but he's gonna have a forward siege workshop soon here, and as I said, his base is very well protected, and you have to be careful about the fully boomed Mongol player here. So, crossbows coming out. They do have ballistics, no tumbling, but they could still do some pressure on the woodlands. And remember that these are the only woodlands that are accessible for John the Fearless, and I think that Layloy knows that as well. If you take a look at his POV, he knows exactly that there is no wood at the back of the opponent's base, which means that he can just play for wood eco denial, just like he did in the previous game. Same concept. The siege workshop over here single-handedly denies this wood line, and if you can just push this TC, you can actually cause a lot of damage to the opponent. There's a defensive siege workshop coming in here for John. I wonder if he sees that workshop or he's just expecting that. I think he's just expecting that there is going to be a push coming in here, sort of as a quiet before the storm type of a thing. John the Fearless is actually floating a lot of resources to a point where he could indeed think about Imperial Age. So 700 food is almost enough for Italians. 300 gold is a little too low. But if he beats his opponent to Imperial, he's gonna have Arbalest. Crossbow's trying to hit the wood line, will not find anyone. And behind this one, the Mangano is already pushing the TC. Defensive Mangano on the way for now. And it looks like Leloy just wants to break into the base here with the Mangonel, as we see John the Fearless being very, very determined towards Imperial Age. So, does he have the buildings? He does have University and does have Workshop, so yes, he does have the buildings. For this one, he wants to click up. Leloy is not even remotely close to clicking up. The question is, can John the Fearless hold on until he reaches Imperial? Because I feel like he's gonna have to wait 3-4 minutes towards that Imperial Age until the upgrades actually kick in. And until then, his opponent is going to commit all his resources towards pushing him here. Let's see the crossbow micro, it's +1 defense for both sides, ballistics and bodkin. We also have villagers from Leloy being sent on stone, so it's not impossible that if this drags out, we will see a forward castle over here from Leloy. Imperial Age on the way for our blue player right now. Nice crossbow micro right now so far from John the Fearless, not really taking any hit from the Mangonel. But behind this one, crossbow's picking off the Mangonel, and I was sussing Hera, but I mean, crossbows out microing Mangonels feels like a very, very Hera thing to do. And he is just juking, diving, very, very nice. A lot of those crossbows are low HP there, so that's not going to be an amazing engagement. But I think this is still a cleanup, as I'm saying that he's microing well. He's going to eat a big Mangonel shot, but still, he's pushing back his opponent. He's 10 villagers ahead and going into Imperial. I feel like this is the moment where Leloy's push is going to stall out. He's floating a lot of wood. Leloy is 2 TCs, but he's 12 on food, which means that he's consuming basically all food he's gathering towards Imperial. And the army for Italians is very, very slow, but it's a strong army, so Arbalest Bombard Cannon can work out really, really well. So you see that there is going to be 4 ranges coming in. Thumb ring as well. So we will have John the Fearless coming in with what's going to be about 20-25 arbs and soon to be bombard cannons. A monastery comes in here. I wonder if this is actually just to heal the crossbows. Other side, it looks like Leloy balanced out his eco a tiny bit, but he's still far from clicking up into Imperial. Goes for scale barding, but I feel like he might even tap out upon seeing his opponent in Imp, because I just simply do not see Leloy getting into Imperial, and Castle Age Mongol Light Cav isn't going to stop anything here. Like, worst case scenario, the Italian player goes Genoese crossbows and the cavalry just dies to it. So Leloy not tapping out because this is a tournament game, but it seems very, very unlikely, as we have a 1-for-1 trade at the end here, that Leloy is able to accomplish much over here. Like, you see that he's still insanely far away from Imp. And I feel like Bracer is coming in right now for John. No Arbalest yet. Elite Skirms will be coming in. I feel like, or John, you probably prioritize chemistry here. Because if you do chemistry, then you can go for bombard cannons immediately. And it looks like these crossbows will just head forward right away. They will ignore this aggression. I think this house actually makes sure that these crossbows can get through these. Well, they can get through these pal sides, but they won't be able to reach the opponent's base easier than that. Mangonel pops out, trying to focus down the opponent's Mango. There's the main siege weapon that is trying to get through these walls. Nice Mangonel hits from both sides. None of the players loses their Mangonel for a time being. Mangonel quickly takes down the Scorpion, but the big prize is obviously that Mangonel over there. And soon these crossbows with Bracer. No Arbalest just yet, no chemistry either, but they can actually start picking off these crossbows. And Arbalests here would actually pick off the Mangonels as well. Mangonel defense on the other side from Leloy as well. No Arbalest just yet from our blue player. Blue player is floating a lot of resources, but look at this. At the end, that was a Mangonel deleted. And the Mangonel delete trick is not something that a lot of players love to use. Some do, but if there is one player that absolutely loves to use the Mangonel delete trick, that's Hera. And I'm like 90% sure that we're actually looking at John the Fearless being Hera. Arbalest and chemistry will be just a little too late to see if these crossbowmen, they will trade relatively evenly, but I mean a couple more crossbows should be able to clean this one up. And more importantly, there's a big force coming in here. And it should be bombard cannons after chemistry clicks in here. That's gonna be TC number 4 for Leloy, but he's still in Castle Age. And what are you gonna do with Mongols Castle Age against Imperial Age Italians? Probably nothing. So there's the forward castle, and that should seal the deal. There's gonna be elite skirms, but these elite skirms, oh, they do have the upgrades, that's totally true. And that's a castle counter castle combination over here. The Arbalests are actually mispositioned, so they won't be able to deny that castle. Yeah, that is not a castle that's going up. He's gonna have to go for a little bit more passive play over here. And that's quite a lot of elite scrims on the field. Arbalists are trying to get into the opponent's base here, but they just can't because all of these are reinforced so well. Still, you probably start making bombard cannons here if you are blue. Or just run into the opponent's skirmishers and completely ruin the entire advantage that you have just gotten over your opponent. Still, it's Arbs. I think they also have Thumb Ring, so they actually take some reasonable engagements over here against just Castle Age Elite Skirms. But like, there's a need for Trebs, there's a need for bombard cannons. Otherwise, Red is gonna have a shot at catching up, and that's not something that you want to allow. Currently, John the Fearless should have like a 90% chance of winning this game. Over here, bombard cannon is out, but there needs to be a trap as well. It looks like we're gonna have conscription first. Makes some sense when you have bombard cannons and rams on the field, but you probably want to take that castle down as fast as possible. So, with that, soon John the Fearless is gonna have to expand. He's going to bump into this position over here, but yeah, Aloy just taps out. I don't know what exactly prompted that GG, but I think he just realized that he's not gonna go into Imperial. Or I think the alternative is that he knows. Does he know about the castle? Because this is an interesting GG from Aloy to a certain extent. Yeah, he knows about the castle. I think he knows exactly that he will need to hold this castle for 3.5 minutes or so at minimum to get into Imperial against rams, bombard cannons, and trebs. His position here was found. I would think that what John the Fearless would do is drop a castle somewhere around over here to secure this position and expand. And I feel like the key thing was that John just beat his opponent into Imperial so hard. He had a much more consistent food income with all the farming, whereas his opponent had a good food eco with the hunt, but once the hunt ran out, there was just nothing that actually backed it up. Could John the Fearless be leery? Maybe, but I'm sussing Hera over here a little bit more. I think, like the deletion, the Bulgarians play, the way that he lures the boar, all of these signs point towards Hera to me. Leary is not an impossible option, but I am sussing Hera a little bit more over here. Anyways, we have a 2-1 scoreline over here for John the Fearless, and we can take a quick look at the drafting scene. So, Italians are gone for John, and Mongols will be gone for Aloy. And this means that we're actually gonna go for the other home map of Aloy, which is Mudflow. And we will see what he goes for. I would think it's Franks, although we have seen players playing Indians for the shore fishing for Mudflow. Other side, I think... What's the Sif here? It's not impossible, it's Mayans, to be honest. Everything else feels off. Like, I don't know what you would do with Britons. Britons is slow-moving Civ, and you need a fast Civ for this map. The original plan was Khmer, that's 100% sure. But there seems to be very little backup Civ to this one, and Mayan seems like it's the most reasonable one. So, maybe, like, I'm just thinking out loud, but maybe if Khmer wasn't taken away, and... like, I feel like John the Fearless probably knew that Khmer or Mayans will be banned here. So he was like, okay, I'm gonna pick Bulgarians. If Mayans get sniped, I'm gonna go for Bulgarians Khmer on Arabia and Mudflow. If Khmer gets sniped, I'm gonna go Bulgarians Mayans. Japanese is a possibility, but what do you really gain with Japanese here? That's what I don't know. Fishing ships isn't really a thing. Cheaper drop-off buildings could help because you probably want multiple lumber camps. You probably want to go for multiple berry bushes, that's totally true. I feel like the biggest problem with Japanese on this map is, once again, mobility. So, they're just not fast enough. Over here. So, I feel like Franks is probably better than any of John the Fearless's civilizations. Yeah, the cheaper drop-off buildings are nice, but I feel like that's just one part of the equation. You need to have a fast-moving army, or something that's like extremely brute force. I think Franks are looking extremely strong on this map, but we have seen some Indians being used yesterday as well. So we might see Indians on Mudflow. It has to be Mudflow. That's the only only civilization or only map that's left. I'm also starting to get tired. 6.5 hours of casting, and we have one more set for the day. So as you see, Leiloi has islands and Mudflow. You can't pick the opponent's home map, so it is Leiloi with Mudflow. If he wins that, the decider game is going to be on a cup, fitting for Hidden Cup. We have game number 4 coming in here. So we will jump into the next one. Leiloi versus John the Fearless. We are going to jump into Mudflow, I believe, which is a surprisingly popular map among the players, so I feel kind of dumb. And there's the Indians. There is the Indians I was talking about. That it's a somewhat straightforward way of playing this map because you have the shorefish at the bottom of the TC. So Indians is not something that's a completely weird civilization. But from what we have seen on this map, many players try different strategies. We have seen Portuguese, we have seen Franks, we have seen Japanese now. Indians were one of those, but only one player actually picked Indians so far on this map. So that could be a relation between two teammates. And that's something that we'll have to look into. I was suspecting Indians here because that Indians pick was quite early and it doesn't really fit to any other map. As I said, it's not a brain surgery to figure out that Indians can be strong with the shorefish here. It's a matter of, does this shorefish alone, which is not really abundant, it's like 500 food, actually justify picking Indians here? We also have a scout moving forward over here from John super early. I wonder if that's for a laming attempt. He went to the opponent's base right away, but actually missed out on both of the elephants. And there is not really a lot of herdables on this map. There is only, I think, 4 water buffaloes or so. So it seems like John is actually looking for something to hunt. Is this actually shorefish? Looks like deep sea fish. This is deep sea fish, but villagers gather at the same rate from deep fish than they do from shorefish. The fishing ships have a different gather rate from shorefish and deep fish, but that's not applicable for villagers, because technically villagers are not meant and not supposed to be able to gather from deep fish in general. So it doesn't really matter. The Indian fishing bonus applies to these deep fish as well. I'm calling it shorefish because the villagers are taking it. It's actually deep fish, that's totally true, but usually I call deep fish the one that fishing ships are taking and shorefish the ones that villagers are capable of taking, because the Indian bonus applies for shore fishing, so to say. So that's why I'm going for that. Anyways, we're gonna have 3 villagers being sent out here by Leiloi. Other side, John the Fearless with Japanese. If you're going for wood lines like this actually makes quite a lot of sense. And one thing that Japanese could do really well on this map is go for a man-at-arms play. That's always possible. Cheaper drop-off building means that you can actually afford to go to the outside wood lines a lot easier. And it seems like it's only free on wood. With Japanese, that might actually still be a man-at-arms play because you don't need to invest a lot of resources into your drop-off buildings at the beginning, so you might just add that 4th villager on wood later. But it technically is possible we're going to see Japanese cavalry, and Japanese cavalry until early Imperial is actually very nice. I think they have everything. They have bloodlines, they have attack defense upgrades. The only thing the Japanese cavalry is missing is going to be +4 defense in Imperial from the blacksmith upgrades, which makes Japanese cavalry very bad in Imperial. But before that, Japanese cav is very underrated. And I think if it's really Hera, Hera is going to play scouts on this map. Because it would be a nice combination, it's a good idea. Because you can play scouts with Japanese just as much as you can with other civilizations. You can go for very, very good defensive spearmen. And you can also get cheap drop-off buildings, which helps getting these berries, but more importantly, it helps, you know, going for these small wood lines in case you don't want to risk moving in the middle, especially against a player that could be Taro. Because Taro loves to play this bog map. There is not a lot of players that actually like to play on this amphibious terrain. Taro is actually one of them. Taro is extremely good on these scenarios. In general, Gamer Legion members like this bog terrain. Not necessarily for bog maps like this, but for example, if you remember, I think in multiple Red Bulls and other tournaments as well, Gamer Legion members often selected Golden Swamp as their home maps. So with that, we are gonna have Man-at-Arms opening here. No surprise about that. So we are going to see a somewhat predictable play here, but I feel like that's still a strong one for Japanese. You could play scouts, I think, but a Japanese Man-at-Arms opening is still something that is an option. It is an extremely devastating force to play with. However, it depends on what Laylo is doing. Laylo actually went for an 18 pop feudal, which means that it is way too tight for an archer build. It is going to be a scouts build. If this was 19-20 pop, then it would probably be possible to go for an archer build. So against the scouts build, the Man-at-Arms are actually completely worth it. In fact, we're going to have a fourth Man-at-Arms being added here as well. Although currently John isn't able to afford the Man-at-Arms upgrade itself. But it's going to be a big commitment, and he's going to try pushing... I don't think it's worth trying to push this wood line. It's more likely that you can actually push the berries and go for a food eco denial. Stable is on, and I guess the idea for John right now, as he's dropping a dock himself, to just go for the Man-at-Arms and try to force engagements close to the opponent's base. Like, for example, you could even target that stable and just say, okay, whatever, I'm gonna try to take that down. A Man-at-Arms indeed is coming in. Wouldn't be surprised to see a Spearman following up. Indeed, it has already been queued up. And it looks like that Voyager is going to be denied from the dock. Nice micro over there from our red player. And the dock is finished, but the Voyager is going to bite the dust. So that isn't working out that great for John. Man-at-Arms is now in, going for the mill over here. The scouts will be coming out, but as I said, at this point, I feel like for Leloy, it might be better off if he makes a range and goes for 2 defensive archers and sends the scouts to the opponent's base. So mobility could be a problem for John the Fearless soon. It looks like he's actually going for a dock, but I wonder what he's planning to do with that. Like, what is the plan with a dock like that? He's not making any ships whatsoever. Is he just using a dock to wall? That would be an awkward way of doing things. Regardless, there is the scouts coming in, and for now there's going to be a dock as well for Taro, and Taro is known for demos. I accidentally said Taro here. We don't know if for sure if it's Taro, but I have some strong suspicion that this is Taro. Leloy coming in with fire galleys for now, but if it's really Taro, Taro loves playing with demos on these bog maps. For now, he's playing very defensive with the scouts. He wants to make sure he waits until he's got a couple of archers on the field, just adding Voyagers to gold. And so far, those Man-at-Arms didn't really find anything to kill. In fact, they didn't really do any damage. Second fire galley comes in here for John as well. So it seems like we have a little bit more passive fuel age over here. Still, I feel like the mobility factor is going to be on the side of Leloy, which helps quite a bit on such a map. Fire galley out now, but there is no defensive spearman on the gold mine. There is no defensive spearman over here, and that's really the problem that you're facing when you're up against scouts on this map. I feel like mobility is so important on this map, considering how open it is. The scouts will just run past here, and they will start hitting this position. There's one spearman catching up, but a skilled player is just going to evade the spearman like that. Another spearman comes in here for John. These are Japanese spearmen as well, so they're particularly dangerous. But you need to control those spearmen all the time to make sure that they don't just get out-microed by the scouts. Right now, Leloy is finding a good angle to attack, but meanwhile, the Man-at-Arms are actually coming in here, and that palisade was actually fairly weak, and those are Japanese Man-at-Arms trying to knock on the doors. There is some archers out though, so the Man-at-Arms will no longer be able to do that much of a damage, and Spearman still chasing down the scouts, unsuccessful at catching them for the time being. And it sort of seems like this Man-at-Arms opening did accomplish nothing. There is actually a galley coming out for John the Fearless, denying some of the wood line, but there's defensive tower already for Leloy. Apparently a Voyager somehow left this position, I don't know how, but luckily we have capture age and we can just go back in time. I'm just finding an excuse to showcase what happened here, and it's not something super complicated. It was an extra voyager being sent to gold, and it's just gonna get picked off by the archers. So with that, that's all that we wanted to take a look at. So we will have no more ship production over here from John the Fearless. The scouts are coming back. Indeed, there is now a rewind feature in Capture Age. That's totally true. I just want to showcase that feature, basically. I've done this a couple of times before, but it is amazing. It's a brand new feature for Capture Age. There will be some nice little things as well added to Capture Age for tuples, by the way. So I'm not going to say anything. It's not something super big, but it's some nice additions happening for tuples as well. So right now, any way I look at it, I like the position of Layloy a lot better, other than the fact that he's behind by 4 Voyagers, which is interesting, and it mostly comes from the idle time of his TC. It's 50 seconds versus 0 seconds idle time, man. 0 seconds. That's gotta be a top 5 player. There's no way that in a 16 minutes game, you have 0 seconds idle time. As I said that, he messed it up and now he has 1 second TC idle time, but that feels like a very clean macro. So the thing is that there is double bit axe, there is horse color for Layloy. He's got the mobility advantage, whereas John, what does he have going for him? Honestly, the resources. The resources are going for him, and that's something that we have to keep in mind, that he didn't really invest into a lot of army. He went for a couple of men-at-arms, but that was basically all. Went for a couple of men-at-arms and spearmen, didn't make a single archer, basically. He made a couple of ships, but that's also true for Layloy. So the investment on the water was kind of the same, but on the land, Layloy made like 4 or 5 scouts, made a couple of archers as well. He had to go for a stable, an archer range, so the investments were very smaller. And if John the Fearless would actually have a market, he would be on the way to Castle Age by now. He doesn't have one, so he's floating 800 gold right now. Definitely not ideal, but this map is definitely something that can snowball really early on, so early nights can actually cause a lot of damage, and I feel like John the Fearless is actually have a slight advantage into Castle Age, but not a big one. If he had a market to balance his eco, he would have had a minute advantage into Castle. He's only gonna have 5 seconds, and the reason behind that one is because the eco was extremely unbalanced for John the Fearless. That 600 gold in the bank, if it was actually like some of that in food, it would have been a much bigger advantage to Castle Age. And now there is some archers accompanying the scouts, and that means the spearmen will be picked off, and some of the villagers are actually fairly low HP here, so these archers will actually find some value for themselves. That's -1. And I don't think that it's gonna be easy for John the Fearless to clean this up. He brings in his own archers. His own archers do not have fletching. Fletching is just finishing for him right now. And at this point, it's 3 villagers advantage for John the Fearless, that's true, but 0 eco upgrades for him. Absolutely 0. He's teching, not really teching, but getting a couple of galleys out on the field to push the middle, and he will be cleaning up these archers. Other side, we will have a crossbowman play from Layloy. It's going to be pure crossbow. For now, he's gathering stone for potentially additional TCs, although I don't think he's going to be able to afford them anytime in the foreseeable future. And those crossbow or those archers are still actually causing a lot of chaos over there. This is going to be fairly even archer trade, but look at this, one archer survives, and it's going to keep annoying villagers over there. There's a couple of low HP villagers that could be picked off. In fact, this one is by far the weakest. Now the villagers will just go and riot and stab down the poor archer. Crossbows are coming in, but this is the tricky thing. Galleys are way better than crossbows until you're fighting on water. But we're not fighting on water, ladies and gentlemen. Crossbows will be hitting this gold mine just before the upgrades hit. It could have been better if it's like 2 or 3 seconds later, so you can actually hit these villagers with crossbows. But guess what? John the Fearless is off from gold, needs to rush up a defensive tower, and it wasn't really about the mobility. It was once again the land versus water investment, and we're seeing that. I feel like with a defensive tower you can prevent galleys from killing your villagers on the wood, and it seems like the land aggression is actually much better, and we have a cav archer play here with Indians. Indian cav archers are very underrated. It's a good unit. I think they will have full upgrades, So we have seen fully upgraded Indian Cav Archers oftentimes on slopes in previous Hidden Cup, so Hidden Cup 3, and also sometimes in the qualifiers. So Indian Cav Archers are actually pretty reasonable. That being said, there is a couple of demos over here for John the Fearless. So are some galleys. One Voyager is actually going to turn into a human barbecue, but at the end, John wants to push the middle with war galleys. The problem that he's facing is that he's gonna be pushed on land with a couple of crossbows. It's not a lot, but things like this shouldn't happen for John the Fearless, especially considering how low those Voyagers are in HP. Look at that. It's so many Voyagers taken down. The TC is gonna go up, but now it's a 5 Voyagers lead right now for Leloy. And the real question is, what can you do against those war galleys though? Because the thing is that your wood line isn't really wood, so if they just commit and sail beneath the tower, they can just take down the tower. Because compared to archers, war galleys actually survive a lot more punishment, so they can sail actually beneath the tower without any problems. And they also deal more damage to buildings, so they can take that tower down from beneath very, very easily. Crossbows are still around, and oh, look at Leloy. Look at Leloy. He's going to find those Voyagers, and that's absolute jackpot. That could be basically 5-6 Voyagers killed. So, indeed, John the Fearless taps out, says, okay, enough of this. I also feel there could be a bit of a rage quit in this. It indeed was looking pretty decent for Leloy, especially if you look at the score. But I feel like this was more of the, okay, whatever you find that as well, I'm just gonna tap out here. I feel like John the Fearless wasn't completely dead. The problem for him is that he was having no land army. And I feel like we're seeing more and more that land army is so important in here. And with that, Leloy evens things out. And indeed, 4 crossbowmen won the game. That's totally true. That's absolutely true. It's 11 Voyagers killed compared to just 1. And that 1 Voyager was on the gold mine where Leloy wasn't looking and he got killed by the man-at-arms. So, if you take a look at the stat screen, I would like to point out this double bit X timing. Majestic. It's a 21 minutes double bit X. But really, I don't think there's a Voyager killed graph, but you see, like, this drop over here was a couple of Voyagers killed, these little drops as well, and at the end, it was really all about the fact that the eco was actually slightly more efficient for Leloy, but the Voyager high, where's the Voyager high at? Society? Yeah, Society, 46, 42, and those crossbows were just, like, they could have kept killing John even more, so, like, John knows exactly that by the time these war galleys arrive here, that's -1, -2 Voyagers at minimum, and he still has no tools to protect his farming eco here, for example. And indeed, he was floating 800 stone or 800 gold in feudal, and that is what delayed his castle age so badly. So with that, we have indeed a 5-game series, and I believe that Robo already posted game number 5. He's giving us no rest, so we will be jumping into game number 5 here in a matter of moments. I'm actually slower than Robo right now, so with that, let us jump inside. Game number 5, it is going to be on Cup, and that is a map which is the final home map of John the Fearless, but if Leloy is indeed Tato, then Tato loves this map as well. GL members play this one very frequently in Hidden Cup 3. We will have the traditional Celts pick once again assigned towards a GL member, something that was the common strategy of Doubt and Tato in Hidden Cup 3. On the left side in Red Celts, right side is a more interesting Britons pick over here for John. I don't really know what to think about Britons on this map. Did any of the new civs were picked in Hidden Cup 4? Do I think if we will even see them? They were picked. I think we had I remember at least one Sicilians game. Winchester played in the qualifiers with Sicilians, but we never figured out what he wanted to do with that because he pretty much just went boom into GG. He didn't even go for First Crusade. Burgundians weren't used at all. I don't think they were picked. They were neither sniped, I believe. And I think that if we haven't seen them up until to this point, we're not going to see them. Or maybe one player has a very, very sneaky strategy for an extremely important game. But Burgundians, according to the stats, were not picked, not banned, and not sniped in the qualifiers. Absolutely not seen in the draft. Sicilians were only drafted once, and they were also played once. That was Winchester's game. So neither Sicilians nor Burgundians have a one game, and it is really about just the one game that Winchester played with Sicilians. But I think he won that series. Well, he definitely won that series because he qualified for the main event. But that game he lost it. So Sicilians 0 out of 1 games, Burgundians 0 out of 0. And I don't think that they will see them. They just don't give you anything crazy. Like the Burgundian Cavalier is nice in Castle Age, but it's not much stronger than a well-upgraded Knight. The early Paladin could be a thing, but I feel like Paladin in 1v1 in general isn't necessarily something that's crazy strong. And there are just way better civs than Burgundians. Sicilians is an absolute potato civ right now. I mean, they were always a one-trick pony, First Crusade civilization. They just don't do anything else. Like, they are okay as an archer civ, but there are way better archer civs. They work as a cavalry civ to a certain extent, but there are way better cavalry civs. They just don't fit this map at all. In fact, Sicilians don't fit anything. But speaking of these two civilizations, I think that these two civs will be frequently used in tuples because you will be giving bad civilizations for the opponent, and I think that Sicilians and Burgundians will actually be the top civilizations given to the opponent because right now there is just no real use for them. Maybe Burgundians have some, but Sicilians, I think it's gonna be one of the prime civilizations always given to the opponent because they are so bad currently in basically every situation. With that being said, we do have an open right side for Leloy over here, open left side for John. No surprise about that. It is the way that this map always spawns. Very, very open gold mine for John over here, and it's a little bit tricky to wall his base off. Even more tricky is the fact that there is actually a hole here, something that he might not even notice. Leloy's map isn't that much greater either, to be honest. This gold mine is really, really bad overall, but there is double gold mines at the back and the store mine as well. So theoretically, it is still a well-defendable position. And I am sort of saying that I like Leloy's position a lot more. So if my predictions are correct, what we're going to see here from Leloy, he only has 3 on wood, but that's no surprise because he's Celts, as Digoroko is subbing back with 9 months. Congrats to the Twitch, baby. Thank you so much for the support. I appreciate it a lot. As Leloy is landing some hits on John's scout. So the thing is that Leloy, if I'm right, he's going to play Men-at-Arms here. Back in Hidden Cup 3, both Doubt and Tato actually played Celtic Drush in an effort to kill the opponent's fishing eco. That's not really going to be a case over here. In fact, something to talk about is that neither players went for fishing eco. Still, that was kind of the trademark strategy of... I think it was Teal's team secret back then, but soon became Gamer Legion. I thought it was Suomi. I remember I was thinking it's Max and Villas back in Hidden Cup 3. We knew that they were teammates, but I thought it's Max and Villas, but no, they turned out to be Doubt and Tato. So the Celtic strategy overall was a thing for Tato and Doubt. We'll have full walls coming in here for Leloy. Same thing as well for John. And look at this. He even plugs this hole in just to make sure that there is no hole over there. I don't think that he knows that there is a hole. No, he actually scouted that. I like this move. That's a very, very smart move. You always gotta check for those holes. And here's the deal. The Britons actually are playing a Drush FC here, I believe. Or minimum a Drush Archers. Is it gonna be a Drush FC or a Drush Archers? This is getting closer to a Drush FC timing from John the Fearless. Whereas for Leloy, he's gonna have the faster moving Men-at-Arms, or he's also playing Drush FC. This is interesting. He was keeping those militias inside the barracks for so long. Maybe he wanted to make his opponent think that it's a man-at-arms play, but it's double Drush FC over here for both players. In that case, I'm starting to like Britons a little bit more, but it depends on when the siege is coming in from the Celts. The thing is that in Dark Age, the Celts have lost their speed bonus, so these militias are completely identical to each other. Now that Leilo is actually hitting those, the HP advantage is overall on the side of our red player. You can see the overall HP is over here. I'm going to keep it on this overlay so you can see the situation of this fight over there. Feudal Age coming in for John, although I'm not 100% sure if he's gonna have the food for an FC here. In fact, I'm almost sure he won't have the food for a Drush FC. In this case, this turns into a very, very late Drush Archers, whereas Leiloi actually wants to commit to the Drush FC. I like that a lot more. I don't think Drush Archers on this map is legitimate, because this map is defendable enough to make sure that Drush Archers don't work well. This is more like the early Castle Age Power Spike type of a map, and HP is still on the side of Leiloi. Now he's losing his advantage though. One of the key things here in Drushes is that you don't want to lose your scout. So keeping your scout alive is extremely important. John the Fearless actually has more HP on that scout, so that's a bit of a win for him over there, but he lost his entire Drush, and there's still 3 militias here that could start knocking on walls. John going up the Feudal Age, indeed this is far from ideal for fast castle. This is gonna be a ranged blacksmith and then just archers. On the other side, this looks a lot better for Leiloi when it comes to a Drush FC. He actually went for all the farms that he needed. Let's see. I think he's like 1 lower than supposed to be, but he's 5 on food on berries, so that's actually fine. And here's a dock. And I guess the idea for Leiloi would be that he wants to potentially get, even if he just gets a galley out or a demo out, that can actually get Svetstvo Emperor. Thank you so much for the gifted sub to Nameless Inversion. I appreciate that a lot. Thank you so much for the gift sub. So you can either go for demo here to, you know, scare away the opponent from potential aggression, or you can go for a galley. Both works, but I guess the idea for Leiloi is that he wants to get some control over this pawn with the ship. He doesn't need a lot of ships, and then forward siege workshop and push the opponent's TC down here. This is why I don't think that this Drush Archer is gonna work well for John the Fearless. He's not far away from Castle Age here, to be honest, but once again, he's gonna have a bit of an eco balance issue. And at the end, he's gonna be... Look at this. Leiloi is even able to afford double bid axe, so he could have gone for... This is 29 plus 2. Could have been 28 plus 2 here really easily with Leiloi's eco. Loom even just now coming in for John the Fearless. He actually went for Drush Archers without Loom. We'll still convert this into a reasonable Castle Age time though if you take a look at this one. In fact, the Castle Age times are completely identical for the 2 players. That's actually crazy. It's a very, very nice Castle Age time for John the Fearless, given the fact that he went for Drush Archers. It wasn't really a full Archers commitment though, so obviously he's not going to fall that much behind. But still, if that's actually a galley, I like galleys and mangonels a lot more than just crossbows. Obviously, the crossbows will have the advantage of being able to push the land. So if you're Leiloi, you think about reinforcing these walls. A second dock coming in here as well for Leiloi now on the other pond. And he probably wants to control both ponds. Cut off the opponent's options of hitting him with the archers from the middle. And wants to force John to walk all the way around. The British army is always very, very slow. So when you are with Briton crossbows, you have to walk all the way around here. That takes quite a lot of time. So it makes some sense that the shortest path between the 2 players should be locked down to the archers. So galley, once again, the same thing that we discussed multiple times on the Mudflow map is that the galleys and in general ships are much stronger than land units in Feudal Age, so this is why this amphibious terrain is often problematic. The militias are still trying to bash their way through these walls, but there's only one of them now, and one archer should have no trouble cleaning that one up. Castle Age kicking in for both players. We'll have skateboarding for knights for Leiloi, which is interesting. Okay, there's a stable. I'm just blind. So here comes some knights, and I would think that, as I said, it's gonna be a forward siege workshop. First the TC. This is also something that Taro would do. He doesn't go full aggro. He's gonna go for a safer play. Add the second TC first. And For now, he just wants to control the pawns, make sure that those crossbows don't hit him, and that his opponent isn't able to get Siege Workshop up in his face. And later on, he will actually start adding a Siege Workshop himself. Vorgali is in with fletching, and those Vorgalis can actually deny that gold mine. That's something that you should also pay attention for. We could even see some demos coming in here. That many crossbows would be hard to kill with demos, but it's never impossible. Vorgalis closing the distance, and now Knight is coming in here as well. I don't think this is gonna be enough for John the Fearless. He's probably gonna lose the majority of those crossbows trying to get through this causeway in the middle. Indeed. That's gonna be just a couple of crossbows left. Nice jukes over there. They might actually pick off one Voyager or so. But I mean, they can't stop, because if they stop, then the Knight is going to catch up with them. But if they don't stop, they just run into the fire of the War Galleys. So nice cleanup over there from Leloy. He's going to be playing on free TCs, so will his opponent. Only 6 and 7 on food, so neither of the players will be able to sustain free TC's production for the time being. But there is going to be a couple of War Galleys, which will be extremely annoying when it comes to denying that gold mine. I'm fairly certain that Leloy knows about that gold, and indeed he does. He's going to send this 2 ships here in this bay, and that's actually going to be a really annoying thing for John the Fearless, because cleaning this up is painful. You can't really use your crossbows to clean up War Galleys, that's the thing. So, one Voyager already down by John the Fearless, the first Voyager casualty of the game. And as I said, I had serious thoughts on John the Fearless being Hera, and it would be a bit of a surprise if Hera left the tournament in the first round. And the more I'm looking at Leloy, the more I'm thinking it's Taro. With the Sith selections, with the way that he plays, he's not a super aggro player, very, very good on islands, that feels very, very Taro-esque. It would be a surprise, I think, if Taro actually beat Hera, though. That's like the only thing that is going against my theory of this one being a Hera versus Taro is that, based on what we have seen from Taro in recent tournaments, I am really unsure if he is capable of beating Hera. But you never know. And whoever read this, he came in prepared for this one. I like the galley play here. It is much more reasonable on this map than it is on Mudflow. Now, the reaction here is nice from John the Fearless. He's going to loop around with the crossbows, but this is what I was talking about. You reinforce these walls, the TC here will prevent the crossbows from walking in. And there's a Siege Workshop even for defense, just in case. That's actually going to be no Voyagers killed. Leloy reacts to this one quite nicely. Crossbows trying to pick off the Galleons. Right now, the War Galleys have 7 range, and there is 8 for the crossbows, so you need Botkin arrow for those War Galleys to be able to range them. So, right now the gold mine is gone. There is a second gold mine for John the Fearless, but he only has 6 on gold, which is not ideal for a Britain's build. And do you know what this is gonna be followed up with? With Voyagers being added to stone now by Leloy, it's going to be followed up with a forward castle, something that we have seen a lot in Hidden Cup 3. In general, we haven't really seen Cup being played very frequently in Hidden Cup 4. So the thing is that during Hidden Cup 3, I think there was less maps to choose from. So we have seen a lot more Bay games, we have seen a lot more Cup games. Now it is more focused towards islands, more focused towards Mudflow potentially. Nice micro over there from our blue player, but eventually he's not doing damage. He still has a 4 Voyagers lead, which is nice, but I feel like the biggest problem that he's facing is that he's gonna have no map control. He's running out of gold. I think those Voyagers being sent to stone will mean that he will attempt to drop a castle, but even dropping a castle is a tough one to do. Like, you could potentially drop one over here, and you see that red is already on stone with 5, already has 400 stone in the bank. And that means that he could actually think about a forward castle soon with those War Galleys securing ground. And if you drop a castle here, or maybe even over here, that's going to deny the primary goal of the opponent. There is some extra gold to work with, so finishing off the opponent is always very, very hard on this map. And whoever blue is, he's not going to give up on this easily, but he's definitely on the back foot. Funnily enough, I think he has the score lead. Well, he has the score lead, that's for sure. But it's a matter of map control right now that is there for Leloy. Voyager coming in here, might be a forward Siege Workshop in a matter of moments for a better engram. Let's take a look. Do buildings on shallows take extra damage? I don't think so, but I'm not 100% sure. TC number 4 coming in here for Leloy. He knows exactly that this game and this map has a tendency to stall out and go very, very late into Imperial. So having a strong boom is extremely important on this map, and you shouldn't go super aggressive on this map unless you are 100% sure you can finish off your opponent, because as I said, it's so difficult to finish off the opponent, and if you're unable to do so, he's just going to fall back to these areas with the gold, the wood, here in the corners, and he's going to be able to counterattack once he has a crazy boom. There's the siege workshop coming in, so Mangonel should start shelling this siege workshop. But as I said, the biggest problem right now for John the Fearless is this gold. He's sending 10 on stone, so he really wants a castle for himself, adding TC number 4 as well. Voyager count actually in the favor of John the Fearless, but he's only double bit axe horse color, whereas his opponent does have heavy plow and boso, and his opponent is at 500 stone, very close to dropping a castle. Let's see, Battering Ram, Mangonel, it's a Mangonel for now. Makes sense because there is not a lot of buildings in this wall that is worth taking down, so Mangonel makes more sense because you want to kill that TC. So Monastery coming in here as well for Leloy, going for the relics, and I feel like Leloy could actually add 2 more Voyagers on stone. There was a sneaky Voyager here. Oh, look at this. It's gonna be found by the wolf, but the idea is that there's a sneaky tower coming in here from Leloy. It's a 1 Voyager sneaky tower, and the entire idea is that you are just going to deny that wood line, because you know that your opponent is gonna have to take wood line from the back, and that helps an awful lot. Mangonel comes in here. It is no longer being repaired though by the Voyager. Second Mangonel on the way as well, and there is the stone that's enough for the castle of his opponent. It looks like Leloy is gonna go for outpost first. This is not something that John the Fearless sees, by the way. This is exactly what John the Fearless knows about. He also wants his own castle, and he's not far away from Imperial. That's something that we have to keep attention on, that John the Fearless is steadily progressing towards Imp 38 on food versus 36. It looks like Leloy is not actually going to do much with this Voyager. He's not going to sneak a tower over there anymore. Knights are now popping out, and there is no demos to sync them. I'm fairly certain that this demo now queued up, but the Mangonels could go down, and there's the defensive castle from John the Fearless. Why is everyone on T90 channel saying it's blue is Hera? Because there is like a 90% chance it's Hera, that's why. If you would ask me who blue is, it's Hera. The style, the execution, everything seems to fit Hera. It's a clean player, struggled a little bit on water, but generally very good. The borderless that he's doing, the reaction that he has had to the wrong hotkeys. They say Taro. I honestly think that it is... I am 90% sure it is Taro for Leloy. The entire thing that we are seeing from Taro, the Celts on this map, the Indians pick on Mudflow is something that is done by someone else, and that makes me feel like we have teammates in the tournament that actually practice a lot together, and that fits Gamer Legion a lot. The upside down question mark in the game chat in game number 1 is only something that you find in Spanish language, and as I said, normal or other languages, I don't even know how to bring that up on my keyboard. So I am like 99% sure that it's Taro. The Islands game was very clean as well, and Taro is known as a beast on Islands. I think this is the first 2 players where I'm fairly certain I can assign these 2 names. That being said, we are gonna have Leloy being beaten to Imperial here, and this is what I was talking about. You can be as aggressive as you want on this map if you're unable to finish off your opponent, and that's exactly what we are seeing here for Leloy, as John the Fearless is actually attacking into War Galley. So we will be having War Galleys coming out over here with soon-to-be Galleon. Britons are actually underrated as a water civ. Surprisingly, Britons have very good upgrades on their ships. Not an awful lot. I think they might be missing shipwright, but Britons actually have fairly reasonable ship upgrades. That's a surprising thing. I think I saw a game once where a player went for Britons on islands, and you shouldn't underestimate the fact there's a lot of gold in the middle here, and gold control in the long run could be a thing. It looks like we're gonna have an interesting decision to go champion here. I guess he's expecting a hub and siege push, so that's why the champion play is coming in here for... So... it has to be Void Raiders eventually. Like, champions will be coming out, but Celts on this map always play Void Raiders in the end. That's just the way that it happens. A little force of crossbows coming in here on the left side by John the Fearless. These won't really do much, even though with Imperial they now have a 9 range, so they can actually outrange that Scorpion pretty nicely. Warriors should have no trouble cleaning them up. Military numbers are still fairly close over here. Handcart just now coming in for John. A couple of knights. The problem that John the Fearless is having right now is it doesn't really have a great army, to be honest. Votciv is better here, super late game. I think Celts will have the mobility advantage with the Void Raiders. And also they have siege rams. Britons struggle quite badly against siege rams. They also struggle quite badly against fast civilizations, and Void Raiders are capable of doing that as well. So I feel like I like Celts here a lot more. Imperial Age in for Leloy, immediately going for Elite Void Raider, as we're gonna have a sneaky TC here in the corner by Leloy. The castle is still up, and heavy demos. Heavy demos. Demos, by the way, is also something that Taro loves to play with on these amphibious maps. So that's also a bit of a clue. Heavy demo coming in, being teched into over here, so he can actually start making ships on this one. That's a nice move over there as well. There is still a lot of gold available on the left side of the map, so it is from the right side of the map, but soon the players will have to start thinking about the middle island with the gold. It's worth pointing out that Leloy has 3 relics under his control, and there will be a lot of heavy demos. And I am fairly certain what's going to happen is that we're going to see that 6, 7, 8 demos will be messed up against. Galleons, demos aren't great, but what you can do is like get 8, 9 demos and then unleash them at the same time, and there is no way the Galleons pick them off. And they will be able to jump inside. Like, if they jump on those Galleons, they are so stacked up that they will just go down to the bottom of the pond really quick over here. That being said, Leloy is going to send in the Void Raiders. Here come the heavy demos, only 4 of them though, but there's going to be a lot of Void Raiders to soak up the damage, more heavy demos coming in. And Ballistics is in for John the Fearless. The traps go down, and that means that I think that a retreat will be coming in here from Leloy, just saving the castles for the time being. The sneaky TC isn't really doing much, but it is right now 2 castles only for Leloy. He's gonna have a 3rd castle soon. What he has to be careful about is that the Void Raiders need castles to be produced on, so he can't afford to lose the castles. John the Fearless apparently buying a lot of stone for himself. Look at that. Stone count is very, very expensive. Here come the champions. And Britain champions are just as good as Celtic champions. They're not as fast, but they work quality-wise the same. So that could be something. Oh my goodness, that was beautiful. Anyone wants to see it again? Because we can do that. Okay, we're just gonna exploit the new Capture Age features for this one. Here it is. Demo is just chilling over here on the shoreline, and boom goes the fleet of John the Fearless. That was beautiful. Now the docks are slowly going down over here, but the Void Raiders will be coming in, and as I said, Britons have trouble with mobility, and that's exactly what we're seeing over here. Void Raiders could just run around and kill villagers left and right. There is some defensive castles everywhere here for John to protect his base, but you can see that there's all the Void Raiders coming in on the right side, left side as well. There's quite a lot of champions though, and John the Fearless is gonna have an easier time replenishing the champions than it is for Leloy to replenish the Void Raiders. I'm not sure how Void Raiders do against champions. I think Voids actually are pretty decent against champs, but not amazing. And that means that this is a cleanup still from John. This game has the tendency to drag out very, very long. So Cup can be a 2 hours long game, because, as I said, it's very, very hard to finish off your opponent. There's a lot of space to fall back to. But I feel like John the Fearless is now slowly coming back, and the next wave of Void Raiders coming in. But I feel like the thing is that even if you lose 20 villagers here, if you're John, you're still fine, because he sort of has a bit of an overboom here. 140 villagers, now it's only 130. And as I said, the castles are extremely important over here. The castles are super, super important, because if those go down, Leloy has no production. It's 62 army against 33, as this castle will also be stopped over here. He needs to delete this, otherwise he's going to lose the stone. And he's still 133 villagers. I don't think that these raids are actually helping John the Fearless by any means, but I don't think that he's actually suffering from that much damage, to be honest. Like, the entire game, John the Fearless lost 20 villagers. That's not actually brutal considering that we're actually in a post-team scenario. So, another castle comes up here, now launching up more and more trebs. Vodir is cleaning up the champions over here, or, well, soon to be champions. And eventually these will be cleaned up, no problem here. I would think, as we have big demos coming in here. Oh my goodness. The demos, and we talked about this on the Mudflow game, that if Laylo is indeed Taro, he loves his demos. And those demos are actually wreaking havoc over there. I'm fairly certain that John the Fearless was focusing on the right side, just like I did. You know, trying to micro his units to try and catch up with the Void Raiders, but he was distracted for a moment, lost a lot of those War Galleys. The KD is dead even between the two players, as we have a push on the right side being assembled by Layloy, but still 33 army against 65, it's 49 champions against merely 27 Void Raiders. And that castle, I feel like, is slowly going down. There is gonna be siege rams pushing in though. Layloy floating 5,000 wood, something that he needs to start addressing. Also, something that he needs to start addressing is the fact that his opponent is sitting on a big pile of gold. Whereas now Layloy is actually starting to run out of gold really fast. Like, there's about 1.5, 2k left still for him. I would say maybe even 2.5. But he's gonna have to start thinking about this. And now the Rams come in here, no Siege Ram just yet, neither Fro or Celtica on these. Siege Ram would be nice to have and he can afford it, but he's waiting for the opportunity to have the Rams, I think, soak up the arrow fire and then the demos pop out. That's the plan. He's waiting for the demos. Here come the demos once again, getting some decent connections in and sink quite a lot of those galleons. The question is, was this enough though? Because yeah, you sunk like 20 galleons, but you will lose 5-10 rams plus the resources invested into those heavy demos, and you still haven't won that fight. So I feel like it was a good demo hit, but it wasn't good enough. And I am really concerned for John the Fearless's gold control. I'm really concerned for his map control overall. And most of the woods are here back at home. This is actually a nice safe cast, and they will clean up the champions. Trab coming in here right now to start trapping that place down. But at this rate, Layloy is just going to be starved out of gold. That's the problem that he's facing. That John the Fearless, all he needs to do is just camp the middle. He could even make a couple of demos himself, getting siege engineers for the extra range on that trap. Because if he gets a couple of demos himself, it's gonna be harder for the Void Raiders to do much. And the docks have been cleaned up on this spawn, so no more demos available for Layloy. For quite a while it looked like Layloy is actually having the upper hand here, but it seems that John the Fearless is actually taking over. And correct me if I'm wrong, but Red Bull Vololo 2, it was a decider game between Mr. Yo and Hera. It was on Golden Swamp, and it was a very, very similar grindy game. I think Hera won that, if this is indeed Hera, but the more I'm looking at this, the more I'm seeing a Hera versus Taro matchup over here. There's just not enough Void Raiders on the field anymore. 21 of them. They will kill a couple of these Trebs, but as I said, Laylo is on a timer. Oh! Okay, this is why the Capture Age Rewind feature actually is implemented. We're actually gonna do slow-mo, ladies and gentlemen. Here comes the demo. I can actually speed up a little bit. 89%, and insert some epic music over here, because here it comes. That is about 12 villagers, all of them getting taken down. Oh my goodness. Yeah, these are Taro level demos, by the way. Amazing demo shot over there. Funnily enough, like, even these amazing demo shots aren't actually winning the battle for our red player. That's the brutal thing. That even these aren't satisfactory to win the game. And if you look at the KD, Laylo is actually leading 211 compared to 181. But reality is that he is still not having enough, and that's plate mail, or plate barding even. That means that we're gonna have light cav. Britain light cav isn't amazing, but it's an okay unit, and I feel like one way to finish off the game is just raid your opponent to death here. I don't think that Jean the Fearless actually needs that, because as I said, he can just sit back and starve his opponent out of gold. But I feel like if you keep applying pressure, that always helps. So just light cav running around killing Voyagers can definitely be good enough. There is some demos inside, but I don't think these will do much. Although the Rams will come in to soak up the arrow fire, Void Raiders coming in, but when Void Raiders are forced to take down Galleons, you know something is wrong, I feel like. They definitely want to take down this castle though, and this is a scary push here. Suddenly, demos pop out. This demo is actually going to get killed over here, but takes down quite a lot of Galleons with him, and the Void Raiders eating the Galleons. I did mention that I feel like John the Fearless needed some demos, even if it's not heavy demos, as he demos some of his own Void Raiders, but still takes quite a lot of ships down. Is this the comeback of Layloy? Because this suddenly becomes a very, very scary push with almost 50 Void Raiders against only 40 champions with Siege Ram support. And if you force John the Fearless away from gold, suddenly he's gonna be the one in trouble, as the demos are coming in once again. Barracks are being taken down, and the thing is that there is nothing that John the Fearless can do against the Siege Rams. These Rams do not have Furor Celtica right now. That is still an awful lot of Void Raiders on the field. 8,000 wood in the bank for Layloy. He also got guilds, so he's trying to sell as much wood as he can. His right side castle is being trapped down. The traps are being protected by swordsmen, but we might actually see one of the traps going down over here. That's a nice one from Layloy. The other castle or other trap is going to stay up. Voyager's not repairing. Other side, though, look at this absolute carnage. And I feel like that's all the champions that John the Fearless has had, and if that castle goes down, a comeback could be mounted over here. This will definitely be the best series of the tournament so far, if this comeback is actually happening. I think that John the Fearless needs some demos. Even standard demos, not heavy demos, are fine here, but you need something that scares away those Void Raiders from just overrunning your ships, so to say. Another enormous demo shot. And now the army numbers are equalizing. The castle here on the right side seems to go down. But look at this. It's just an endless flood of Void Raiders and Rams, although it now seems to stall out. And the thing is that Layloy is not getting any map control from this one. He actually pushed his opponent back, but he didn't actually gain any map control. And at the end of the day, it is still 70 army against 32. Once again, the demos are being assembled. So that's going to be one of the most inefficient demo hits in the history of demo hits. 3 castles right now remaining for Layloy, but what is more concerning is the gold count. He's just running desperately low on gold. Like, he actually still has quite a lot over here, so he still has some time, but not an awful lot of time. And you also have to consider that there is about 16 light cav and a lot more in the queue for John the Fearless. He's just pop cabbed. But when those light cavs actually start moving out, you will have to start addressing that problem. And at this stage, trading light cav for John the Fearless to Void Raiders is great, because you will have to use your Void Raiders to catch up with the light cav. It looks like the Void Raiders actually tried to go around for a raid. Now we're going to have champions for Layloy. Though those Void Raiders have squires, they feel too slow to me, aren't they? Aren't they supposed to be a little faster? Okay, now they're moving faster. Once again, the middle is controlled by John the Fearless, and as I said, the light cav raids are what is making life really bad for Layloy here. Because trading off Void Raiders to light cav is not great, because the Void Raiders are gold units. Void Raiders don't get squires. Whoops. Nice raid over here coming in though from Layloy. I don't like that he's actually losing this group of Void Raiders over here to the champions. He knows about how important those castles are. He's gonna get hoardings. He's also losing a lot of villagers on his wood line over here. So both sides are losing significant amount of villagers. Dry dock and shipwright, ladies and gentlemen. So it's British light cav with British shipwright fast fire ship. That is what we are seeing in a decider game in Hidden Cup 4. Once again, it's demos. Harbor replay coming in for Layloy. Voyager count is still that, even so are the populations. I did mention that this map has the tendency to stall out for really, really long games, and I feel like that's gonna be one enormous demo push. And also, I don't understand the fire ship indeed for, like, the fire ships are good against the Rams. So it's not a bad idea. The problem is that the fire ships will be absolutely massacred by demos, and that's a lot of demos. That's like, what, 15 demos? Only 12 of them. The Rams are coming in here as well, and here it comes. The scouts will try to block them. Big blast coming in here, and they will actually start connecting Tato, the demo master, if he really is Tato, That is some enormous hits over there. And look at the army numbers. It's 60 versus 50 only. The only unlucky thing for Leloy is that he wasn't able to land a big demo shot on those champions, which would have been so helpful on finishing off these champions. The Rams are somewhat mispositioned, though I don't know where they're going. And once again, it feels just a little too few for for Leloy, although there could be a demo coming in here as well. That's going to be somewhat inefficient. Same for that one. Same for that one. So 3 demos were wasted there. Really, if you can get a good demo shot on the champions, it could be completely different, as Leloy switches the angle of attack. He's going to say, okay, whatever, I'm going to ignore the northern part, I'm just going to start pushing this side with siege rams. But once again, the Vault Raiders actually run out of numbers, and these rams will just go down. A lot of units are kind of wasted over here for Leloy, if you ask me, despite the fact that he technically still has the KD lead. Also very inefficient demo hits over here. And you also have to consider that Leloy is sitting on very little gold. He has 3 relics, but that's still not enough to sustain this one when his opponent is actually sitting on an island full of gold. The castle is actually saved by the Vultures, and once again it's 62 army for John the Fearless. And Leloy is down to 42. Once again, warriors are coming in. Pikemen that actually have bonus damage against ships, but I feel like Pikeman is sort of a white flag right now because John the Fearless can keep adding hub or swordsmen, and the halberdiers will not really work anymore. Like, I think that galleons and champions will beat halberdiers. And yeah, they are killing some vultures over here, but I feel like if you take a look at the resource bank of John the Fearless, even if he gets forced off the gold for a moment, he still has a lot of resources in the bank, although, once again, Leloy secures some ground for himself. Taro actually once had a crazy long Golden Swamp game in one of the tournaments. I don't remember which. If this is really Taro. Also, it seems like the wood prices are still very good. Selling 100 wood for 30-ish gold, that's actually very good wood prices. I wonder if John was buying wood here. Because I think the wood prices were already bottomed out, but then suddenly buying actually started happening, and guess what? Now we have gold income for Leloy, which means he can sustain this spam. And indeed, if John the Fearless is buying wood, that actually benefits Leloy, because he needs to sell wood to keep himself competitive. Another demo could actually get a good connection. Still, 65 army against 30, and I once again feel like this is just barely not enough for Leloy. He's trying his best, but I feel like every fight that he's taking, he's just a little too far away from edging out the victory there. Slightly better demo shots maybe could actually help an awful lot, but now he's out of gold, and I feel like that's the end of the story. That's the end of the story, and I think that the fact that we're seeing John the Fearless being opposed to a monster like this also is sort of a confirmation towards Hera. I think these are the first 2 players that I am very certain about. John the Fearless seems to be Hera, and indeed he's fearless. He's not tapping out early. Leloy seems like it's a very well-performing Taro. Based on what we have seen from the previous tournaments of Taro, I didn't expect this much from him, especially against Hera. Because if this is really Hera versus Taro, then it is an insanely good performance from Taro as well. And he fell just a little too short. Like, if you think about that, which map was the one that was won by him? He won Islands, and he won... I think Bay is the one that he can be sad about, because that was somewhat winnable. Still one of the best series of the tournament, but now I see very little way back for our red player. But it's still not impossible that there is going to be a comeback for Leloy. He's not going to give up on this easily. It seems very unlikely right now. So it's less than 5% chance, I would say, for a red player. But he will launch one more huge offensive over here with siege rams and halberdiers against this part of his opponent's eco. Still, he's up against an insane amount of galleons, but one thing that we have to consider is that, like, these galleons can't actually help out on this side, and if you look at the army numbers for John the Fearless, he doesn't really have a lot of land army. He's gonna have champions soon. It looks like Leloy is once again massing some warriors, trying to take the fight over here. So, the galleons aren't necessarily that population over here, because they still guard the gold mines, and that's what matters. Guarding those gold mines matters a lot because otherwise Layloy would be able to take them back. Here comes the siege ram push, and that's actually a very, very scary push though. The question is what damage it's going to cause though. Like, even if you kill this castle, does that accomplish much? It's not about the voyage numbers anymore, it's about gold control. But indeed, as someone said on chat, Deathmatch World Cup 3, Taro actually won a Golden Swamp game with wood control, which is crazy. Golden Swamp has even more gold in the middle, and he was off from gold for like so long, and he actually won with wood control. That was a crazy game. If it's really Taro, but I feel like the resilience here and the fact that he believes that he can actually win this one without gold is once again very reminiscent of Taro, and he believes that it is going to be wood control that wins him the game, and he's still selling an awful lot of wood. And the thing is that at this point these galleons aren't really doing much to the eco of Taro. The light caps will, but there is Celtic Halberdiers trying to defend here. Warriors could actually pop out as well to clean this one up, so Britain light cap isn't amazing enough to cause an awful lot of damage here. And indeed, we have to point out that John the Fearless has 5 gold miners, although you have to add that he's still sitting on 2000 gold, which is a massive difference compared to his opponent, who is sitting on 125 gold. But indeed, it's not like John the Fearless is really capitalizing on that island by any means. Now champions are out for Layloy. Those guys have +4/+4. Same thing, I assume, for our blue player. Indeed. So now it is... What is this even? It's a lumber camp. John the Fearless is running out of wood. And I did mention that wood control could be just as important as gold control. Now Treb's actually shelling this castle, and the castle is gonna be bye-bye, which hurts a lot for Layloy because he wants to protect his food eco here. These champions will just be trading evenly here, but I guess now it's all about denying the wood from John. I think the biggest problem that Layloy is facing is that there is still enough wood for John to work with. Like, John could actually go over here, maybe make a castle, he's got stone for that. John has this wood line over here, he's sitting on 4000 wood. I don't think that John will ever starve out of wood, that's the problem. Whereas Layloy will solely get grinded down. 200 pop against 169. Layloy is really trying, but there is soon nowhere to go. I feel like at some point for John you have to consider deleting some of your galleons. Not all of them, but 38 galleons is sort of unnecessary now. You probably want to go down to 20, because you need population to keep adding light cav and go raiding, keep adding champions and just finish off your opponent. 1 hour, 11 minutes game. This map, one of the reasons why I don't like this map is because it often has the tendency to stall out, but this is an amazing game. And I feel like it's gonna be gold control, unless or a blue player eats all the gold in the middle, which is still an awful lot. This is about still 5, 6, 7,000 gold in the middle. I feel like unless all of that gold is consumed, Layloy will never win this game. Layloy needs to drag this game out long enough for the opponent to run out of gold. I've actually seen one game, I believe, in my life where I have seen a map like this. I think it was Golden Swamp, where the player actually ran out of gold in the middle. That was a crazy game. I don't remember who played. I think it might have been Winchester. It's still Halberdier spam. John the Fearless has 2 voyages on gold as well, but he's actually getting a castle up here. There's going to be soon nowhere to go for Layloy. He's at 170 population, his opponent is still 200 pop. And I feel like this is just a slow and painful death from Layloy. If you take a look at his base, now the traps can set up over here, take that castle down, and this is going to leave this entire base open for raiding. And yes, Layloy is doing some damage to John's eco, but I feel like the damage that's being done by John is much better. I think the score is telling the truth here. 28,000 versus 21,000. Like, Layloy is not completely dead, but I don't see him winning this one. Especially because, as I said, John can always go back to the middle for extra gold, and he can just keep adding champions, whereas his opponent will always struggle to add champions in this one. I would dare to say that you could even make a couple of longbows if you are John, or he hasn't tagged into Arbalest, so Arbalest doesn't make sense. But even mixing a couple of longbows would help out dealing with these champions and halberdiers. because there is no more siege ramps coming in right now from Leloy, as the Trebs are just taking down building after building. And look at that, John the Fearless is just pretty much colonizing the other side of this map. What a carnage this is, but I mean, just look at the resource bank. 6,000 food, 1k gold for John the Fierce, and now he's moving out with a lot more Voyagers on gold. He still has 30 galleons in here, so he's not deleting any of them. But soon you might even consider deleting some Voyagers for population space, because you need pop space at this moment. You also want to target that monastery. That would be extremely important for John, because if he takes down that monastery, he doesn't see it right now, but he's very close to scouting that. And if he sees that, he needs to take down the monastery, because those free relics are pretty much what are keeping Leloy in the game right now. If those free relics are gone, there is absolutely no chance. There's no way that he's just going to win with each... It's basically champion versus champion fight for one player that has no gold. And the other one has still close to infinite gold. At this very moment, the bottleneck right now for John the Fearless is population and not gold. So he's just able to keep adding champions. He's got, I think that means 32 on the field and 52 queued up, indeed. 52 champions queued up right now for John, and he's still floating 1,500 gold. And there is indeed the longbows I was talking about. It makes some sense once you know that your opponent is only going for infantry. They do have bracer. These are actually pretty decent longbows. And hoardings even coming up for those castles. There is some Havadiers raiding, but I feel like this is just a slow and painful death, as Leloy is trying to save this castle over here. This is actually a bad position for those traps. You want them over here, because you want the galleons to be able to protect them. So that was a little bit potato from John. The trap still is taking on the castle. If this castle goes down, there is nothing that protects this eco over here. And I did mention that this monastery is now, I think, in the vision of John. Indeed, he sees it, so he can actually make a trap and trap it down. I feel like Leloy would have probably resigned already if it wasn't the decider game of a very important tournament. In a tournament where both players had very, very reasonable chances of winning. In fact, Leloy was always keeping himself in the series, but we have to add something. In this series, Leloy was never leading in this entire series. It was always John the Fearless winning one, then Leloy winning one. John the Fearless won, Leloy once again, and it seemed so good for Leloy for so long. I feel like I was talking about the castle drop before the Imperial Age hit. I thought that that's gonna be enough for Leloy to carve out a big advantage for himself, but once again this map shows how hard it is to finish off the opponent on this map. And that's always something that you think about. This is why 1TC builds on this map aren't legitimate, because you can't finish your opponent off fast enough to compensate for falling behind an eco. What was the mistake? I think that he went for an aggressive play but didn't do damage with it. Whereas John the Fearless was pretty much just booming behind that one. It was full boom versus some aggression, like Leloy went for mangonels, war galleys, but he should have castle dropped that primary gold, I believe. Leloy had the option to castle drop the primary gold, and that would have caused a lot of problem. So now, as I said, we're just waiting for Leloy to resign, to be honest. He's down to 98 Voyagers. There is no way back now. There's absolutely no way back. 127 population against a pop-capped player that has 1 million champions queued up. And really, there is 2 TCs still standing for Leloy, but I mean, there is nowhere to go. It's 88 army, 37, 94 Voyagers, and Voyagers are going down one after another. I feel like since there is no more siege coming in for Leloy, I could easily see John the Fearless just going for full longbows or just going for Arbalest. He should be able to finish off the game with that. It's not something that's necessary. Catches these Voyagers over here as well, and Leloy says, GG, good luck next time. What a game this was. The overall series was interesting, even though some of the games were a little bit more one-sided, but this game was the crown jewel of the series to what could have been Tato leaving the tournament, nearly eliminating Hera. We don't know for sure, but I feel like these guesses are both fairly well based on the facts that we have seen. Both of these guys being very, very late game beasts. The way that Leloy played this map, the way that he hasn't given up until the final second, versus John the Fearless doing the same as well. Insane post-Imperial game from both players. And that means that John the Fearless, indeed, he's without fear, and he's going to get into the next round of Hidden Cup 4. I actually want to show the stats here. That was actually a very nice YouTube outro, but I feel like this map actually is worth showing the stats. KD, John the Fearless actually wins at the end, but that was because by the end, Layloy was just throwing away halberdiers against champions. Building KD obviously is there as well. This is, I think, what... Actually, look at this. Look at this. This is not even brutal. It's a 3,000 goal difference only between the two players. So that was crazy. Rally gold out there as well. That's a beautiful number. 29,999 for John the Fearless in terms of gold income. This game, both players actually reached Imperial at 34 minutes, and the game ended 1:22. So we had almost a 1 hour long post-Imperial game over here. So with that, John the Fearless, as I said, moves into the next round of Hidden Cup 4.